Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fine.
I try to be. I'm hoping that worst case chat can talk and
Anything, we'll learn from mistakes today. It's no
yeah.
big deal.
Yeah, it's first run.
Case check and okay. Yeah, we're gonna mute me. That is working though.
So mic check. Make sure there's no echo.
1 2 1 2.
Check, check, check. 1 2 1 2.
All right.
I've never done a side cam before. That's why I wanted to test out today. I saw Latins and I was like, I like that.
All right. Oh, and I got chat working in my actual stuff over here, so that's great. All right. Well, you guys ready to go?
Yeah. I'm not nervous, but yeah.
Okay.
Ready to wing it? All right.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna wing it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Hello, friends and fellow gamers. I am ThatZero, and I am so excited to bring to you today the first episode of Cap Raise, a Last Cloudia podcast. And I am joined today by my two co-hosts, the always beautiful Chadline Coon, what up?
How's it going, everyone?
As well as the always excellent ThatNerd DK.
Hello, guys.
We are here. We don't know what we're doing, but we're trying our best. All right. So I thought it would be good to first start out with, in general, who are we? So for any of you that haven't seen us before, we're all people in the community, like many of you, in the Discord and on Twitch and YouTube and all that fun stuff. So, Jawline, why don't you start out? Who are you? What do you do?
So I am a Jawline Coon, or Chadline, as gifted by Kit, but I mainly stream on Twitch, or when I do stream on Twitch. Used to stream Monster Hunter a lot, but got pretty burnt out on that, and then I streamed Last Cloudia for a bit, and also stopped on that because LC streaming LC is fun and all, but I mean, there's not really much to it. You know, there's gaps where
Yeah.
there is stuff to do, and then there's not anything to do at all. And I've been playing it for a while now, so I guess that's all there is to me.
Yeah.
Nothing
Well, you
special.
were here since launch, I believe, or close to it, right?
Yeah, I actually started playing it. I started playing it at launch, but I was re-rolling for about, I don't know, maybe I think about a week. So I've been there, I've been here day one, but my account isn't day one.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm off
So
by a few days.
So we've gone through a lot of ups and downs in the time of LC. We've had some dark times and some very high points. What's one thing that's kept you hooked? Like what? Why LC over, all the other gotcha games out there for you?
Um, I'm gonna be honest, probably what's that term? Sunken cost fallacy or what is it? So whatever it is, I don't know the exact
Yeah.
thing, but
You.
I've already played it for this much. I'm just gonna stick with it. But I mean, I do like it. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty. When it came out, it was definitely new, and for the most part, I was like, oh man, this game was great, and it still is. Like I still like it a lot. Obviously, I'm still playing it, but um. I think what got me hooked was the character customization. Like yeah, I'd say it was probably the character customization.
Yeah. It's definitely some next level theory crafting and customization you can do. I haven't found another game that I've been able to have that level of deep impact on what I can do and the strategies you can employ. So that's probably the biggest one for me as well. Customization and theory crafting. Um, what would you say you're best known for in the community? I mean, I know I have my opinion of how I got to know you, but
No. Um, from what I'm best known, I don't know. It was probably when I first started streaming LC was like when Secret of Mana first came out.
Mhm.
That was pretty fun because at that time, like the game was still new. I think we got Secret of Mana within like 3 months, so it was a pretty early collab. And I started streaming it on Twitch, and there was a lot of people that dropped by. I think we were like in the hundreds at one point, and it was like that for a bit. So I was the community, being able to talk to a lot of people. It was pretty fun. Um, But as far as being known, I think it's just because of the fact that I streamed LC. I
Yeah,
don't think anybody else was streaming it at the time.
yeah,
So I think that's probably it.
cool. The main reason that I've usually seen you come up is just you posting your random meme videos because you do such silly things with units that nobody else would be willing to use, and it's pretty great and it's very entertaining. You find some pretty interesting interactions to be able to make weird units work, like Gobble and
Yeah,
you
mind
know.
you though, like I got to that point like maybe 3 months ago. It took
Yeah,
this long to be able to get to that point to do those with those units.
yeah, takes a lot of time. All right, cool. DK, who
Yes,
are you, man?
sir. I am DK. I know this says that nerd's in there, but I just go by DK. The name just kind of I've actually changed it twice since I started YouTube, which was super random actually. It was during COVID. It was I was kind of bored. I was sitting on my couch one day and I was kind of like, you know, what happens if I throw on these headphones and record some video and then I upload it? What would happen? So I did my first video and pretty bad. But I honestly there was just things that I was noticing and that people weren't posting. So I wanted to kind of jump on, be part of the community. I wanted it to be bigger is what I wanted to be. Um, so that's kind of like what started me actually doing the YouTube and being part of the YouTube scene is that I just wanted to make sure that the game stays alive. So that because it's such a great game. I've been playing it since day one. I think how I saw it was through a trailer one day and it said coming soon, and I actually paid attention to the date because normally games like that I kind of just brush it brush it off kind of
Yeah,
you know and this one just caught my attention. I immediately saw Star Ocean or Tales, an old Tales game, so I started to download it, and from there, day one, I didn't know about rerolling. It was my first like real gacha, so
I feel that.
yeah, no, I didn't know what to expect. I got Lila. I thought she was, the best unit in the game, but then I started doing like more. Yeah, we gotta laugh now, right? It's like, but like, yeah, if I would have known the stuff that I know now, it'd be a lot different. But I have no regrets. As far as like, I remember it was a dark time when I started to realize, how long it took to get certain things, and we didn't have many events, and now we just, we can't get enough of them. So
Yeah,
it's a great time to be an LC player.
Hmm.
yeah.
But yeah,
I'll second the lack of re-rolling knowledge when I first started. I discovered the game a
right.
little bit later, so I think it was probably like January-ish of that first year. Whenever Fall came out, like that banner was the hot thing that just got released when I came in, and
Hmm.
I started out with no meta SSR arcs, Dine, Lena, and Fall. That is what I started the game with. Literally nothing else. So
Damn.
Dine was good for like five
Dime was no,
minutes.
Dime was good. Dime
Yeah.
was good. I
You
chased
wanna
him.
you wanna know why I started? The reason I started so late was because I was re-rolling for the perfect thing, and I ended up starting with pirate ship, sky ship, Shin, and then Shin's arc. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going with this. This is my starting
No
account.
Randy? No
No,
Randy in your
no,
starting pool?
this was before the collab.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah,
That's a
when it
good
first
start though.
started coming out.
Like both
Yeah.
ships was kind of the main thing people said to go for,
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
it's pretty legit. Nice. Um, yeah, I'm obviously ThatZero. I started doing some YouTube stuff a couple of years ago, and that was just sort of doing Let's Plays, and I didn't really end up getting into Stick, did a lot of shooters and things like that. And started playing LC along with some other gacha games, and this one has held on to me much longer than everything else. I kind of got back into content creation just because I really love the Last Cloudia community. I'm in like the Discord sometimes, then I'm on the Reddit a lot, and I just enjoy going in and just seeing all the questions because the in-game doesn't really explain stuff very well, like by design. You know,
Oh,
the devs have kind of said that they want it
Not
to
at
be
all.
like Days of Old, where you have to go and do your own testing and go try to talk to people in forums and things. And it's definitely not super user friendly unless you're going to get help on Reddit and stuff. So I enjoy going in and finding new players and helping to explain things, but I found that there's certain things that I would be explaining like a broken record, and it would just be the same thing. So I'm like, you know what? How about I just start making videos so that if people have questions, I can just link over to a video, and then it can be explained, and then there can be visual aids and things like that. So, and then if people are already making videos, I can just link over to them, and then I just won't make a video. So maybe I'll link out to a DK video or a Buddha video or whatever it might be. Like if somebody does it, I can link to it. If nobody's done it, then I'll do it, and then I'll have a link to send to people. So yeah, that's kind of it. And I think the thing that actually pushed me over was probably Buddha starting, just because we haven't had that many content. At least it's always been kind of just slow. And there just hasn't been a ton, at least that I found.
First technical difficulty. There he's going.
Damn.
Yeah,
Oh no. Oh no, I'm losing you guys now. Am I back?
You are back.
yeah, now you are.
Oh, son of a bitch. All right. Gonna have to go tell my wife to get off the prawn. That's okay. Let's work on getting back on track here. So we are talking about Yeah, did you guys have any other questions for me or each other or anything like that?
Questions. Honestly, no. Not that I can think of.
Awesome. So let's get into our first topic here, which is 5-star enhancements. The last couple updates, we've started getting some of these older units as well as new units that have been getting 5-star enhanced. So I'm curious, what have you guys actually boosted up, and what has been worth or not worth in your particular experience?
I'll go first. The ones that I've 5-starred on, I can actually. I've 5-starred Go. I've 5-starred Devon. I've 5-starred Lila. I have 5-starred Lena, and then obviously Ed, and then Lugtez. But I think out of all the ones aside from Ed and Lug, Lena is by far, even now, from the old units that have gotten buffs, I still think Lena's buffs are by far the best ones.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I don't regret Devon's because he's pretty fun to use. I had never used him before him getting a buff, and then Lila, I literally only got her to 5th enhance, just so that I can do the El Giovanna memes with her trait, and then go. I honestly don't know why I 5th enhanced him. I didn't just do it, and then.
So
Lena,
explain the meme you're talking about, just so that people know. Because, I mean, a lot of people aren't going to know even what you're talking about. What trait is special on Lena that, made it important to get her to 5-star?
Lena or Lila?
Lila, sorry.
Well, Lila, her trait, let's see. Okay, so her trait, when you 5th enhance her Sun and Stars gets the light attack damage plus 40%, and then it has a damage cap of 4,000. So it doesn't say specifically magic or physical. And I was like, all right, well, Giovanna's light attack, and maybe it'll affect this. So I went ahead and just tried to get her to reach the max damage cap with El Giovanna's special, and I was able to do it. It took way too much setup to even be worthwhile. So mainly why I regret 5th enhancing her. But yeah, it's a lot of setup. Not worth it. Would not recommend to 5th enhance her or Go. The only one that I would recommend to 5th enhance is Lena. That's it. Yeah. Everyone else just has gotten damage cap or something else. But yeah. I think Lena's is her utility just went through the roof with her recent buff.
And you're talking specifically the old units. Obviously, new units are probably pretty worth hitting 5-star.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. All right. I'm just clarifying for people. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then not only is she worth because Lena's buffs were pretty insane, but her ward is like the only worthwhile one in the game too, right? She's one of the 3 that gives you MP increase.
Lena's OG Theria, and then
Blood Rose.
They have the MP percentage.
Yeah, so they're kind of worth just on that. I mean, it's a small bump, but it's much more valuable than any of the other wards, which are
Yeah, for sure.
pretty not worthwhile.
Yeah.
But DK, what have you done? You got any five stars yet?
Yeah, I'm hooked on the 5-star enhance. I don't know, it's just a pretty thing to look at these days. Because when we first started, it was always 4-star enhance. So now that it's all a pretty blue, it's kind of cliche, kind of really the red and blue thing. But I like so my first 5-star enhance, it was Lanceable. I don't know why he wasn't
no.
even. It was I don't know. So man, there's no real excuse why I did it. So like, it was the fact that he was not that good, and I wanted to see what could be pushed out of him. Of course, my SE cost was really low as well. But there was this one time I was in arena, right, and there was a guy running a Lanceable and a Zuglis, and I got my ass kicked. And it was because all the attention got put on these tanks, and that's when I was like, you know what, let me, because that's the thing you want to do in this game. You just want to keep playing and keep building and building and building
Yeah.
and find out.
You want to test. You want to play.
You want to test everything, right? But we just don't have mats, right? So like, that's why I was like, you know what, I'm going to take the dive. He's one of the first set of enhanced units. I'm going to go ahead and put it all, not knowing how rare these mats are going to be. I mean, my goodness.
Oh yeah, we'll be talking about that.
Just, right. So I finally went through with it, and actually, he's fun. He's a fun character to use, and just like that I was saying, it was just, I like to meme with like certain characters. Even though if I lose, it's just fun to see like certain animations, especially throwbacks. Like especially when you first started, this is what we had, for a whole year straight. Whenever he first dropped with Eliza, it was like everybody chased these new DOH units, right? So I gotta give him the love, and his sprite is really well designed, very colorful, big old sword. Still to this day, I wish we had like a heavy weapon. I know there's like a sword, a staff, and I wish we'd implement like a heavy weapon into that, because these guys, you have Zuglis and Lanceable have these humongous swords, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be really cool to see it. And we have the new two-handed. I think it's a two-handed. We have the two-handed weapons that are coming, or the two-handed skills that are coming out. So it'd be really cool to see like a new weapon type in the future. But yeah, that's actually why I did it. I went ahead and enhanced them all the way, unlocked all the abilities and whatnot. But my main guys that I went after was Logue, Roy, Ed, and of course Tinkili, just because of how amazing of a unit she really is.
Mm-hmm.
And Nocturne, not the base one. But right now I'm currently working on Swimsuit Tinkili, and I'm just having an absolute blast with that 98 SC. One of my favorite. And another thing is that she has that male slayer, which is just preparatory to her. What is it? I think it's dark damage plus 30, damage cut plus 3k, and damage to male units plus 50, which we all know there's a ton of male units in the game. So
does that actually count as Slayer, or is that an extra multiplier on top of Slayer?
I believe it is. I could be wrong on this. I think it's on 2. I don't know
I
if
think it's just extra damage. I don't think it's actually Slayer.
Right. I think it has its own picture, if I'm not mistaken.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, so I mean that's why I like to run a Theo combo. So Theo does the defense and M&D minus 50%, and then you also get this. So I mean, I kind of feel like it's just kind of fun. And that's what's so much fun about it, is you can just constantly keep stacking all these different kinds of debuffs. And the other day I was actually testing to see how many debuffs I can put on one boss. As many as how many I could, like Ice Circle and all the M&D down, Strength down, INT down. And it's just, and then she has weakness or Giga weakness. I put that on her, and now we have like the new Ice Circles and stuff like that. Yeah, but I think I just visually like seeing what you can do and seeing how fast the health can drain. So that's why I've actually been maining her for the past couple weeks. Working on her.
Nice. Well, it sounds like she feels pretty worthwhile to you, at least. And I've heard she's quite good after the buffs as well. So, yeah. Lancevale, probably not so much worth.
No. That was total meme.
Yeah.
A little bad idea. A little regret, but...
Yeah. I think the biggest recommendation for people in general is, like, if you're interested in getting a unit to 5-star, get them to 4 and max out their board and see if they feel pretty good already. Because if they don't, 5 isn't probably going to fix it. Like, maybe it may make it a little better. But like Lena could do quite a bit of things before, and then she just became stupidly broken with her 5-star buffs.
Yeah.
So she can do things literally nobody else can now, which is great.
Her S2 is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Now that it recovers 2% instead of 1%.
yeah, it is a big deal, big deal.
She
I
went
suppose.
from spamming. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it might actually be worth talking on that because since the point of this, like if anybody's thinking about who to 5-star and you need a good healer, like Lena, if you have the right tools, is probably on par with Theria for certain things. Like if you got the automail buff to get Winry's apple pie, Lena probably better than Theria for doing like some boss fighting and stuff. Like when you just want to burn stuff down, and the reason for that is at 5-star, she has a skill called Magic Cane, where you slap something and then each hit will give you back 1% of her MP. At least that's what it used to do. Now it does 2% of her max MP, and you can dual wield and get a bunch of hits. So she per charge just gets stupid amounts of of MP back. So when you want to go and use something like Winry's apple pie or OG people with honey elixir they both cost 200 and then drains your whole pool, she literally doesn't care. You can use it, and then she'll be back up over 200 like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And doesn't it have
She
like
went from-
6 stocks or something too?
I think base she has 5 stocks on her S2, and then with stock skill and purple orb she gets 7.
Yeah, and then if people don't have that and you happen to have something like Glass Record, it's a bit slower, but again, she can probably utilize that better than everyone else because she'll get all her stocks back of Magic Cane from using Glass Record, and then just have infinite MP. So Lena's pretty great.
Yeah, she went from spamming Glass Record to being able to spam honey elixir or Winry's apple pie. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Is that
But not only
awkward?
that, I mean, her other traits definitely makes her buff stand out a lot. So her first trait, practicing knowledge, it really only lowered the MP needed for healing magic. But after her buff, it's now HP recovery amount plus 40% when healing with an active skill. That only pertains to her S3, so it's not really that good. But the other HP recovery cap plus 3,000, so now she's able to heal for 12,999. And then the biggest one, healing magic casting speed plus 20%. So she's got a built-in Rad Moon or high level magic chant. And then on top of that, they gave her high level magic chant. So she has a 40% casting speed on healing, which is crazy. And then with Rad Moon, I think she only needs just Rad Moon in order to insta-cast Stardust, which is really nice. And then her second trait, Blessing of Yggdrasil, it only gave a chance to for healing magic to do crits, so critically healing. But now it got physical attack damage taken minus 30%, and then some damage is always reduced. The higher the MND, the more damage is reduced. So she can be a solid tank. If you wanted to make her a tank,
Yeah.
she could definitely be a tank.
I like that they leaned into like what her kit does, because my biggest problem when I used to use Lena, because she carried me through so much of the game before I got other supports like Tank and then eventually Theria, it bothered me that her S2 and S3 usually just didn't end up doing, or not S3, the S1 and S2 ended up not doing much because they were close range, and the AI in general just wants to sit back and be a basic support character. So I like that these buffs kind of emphasize, hey, she's more of a paladin. Like, she wants to get up in things' faces, be slapping things around and healing. And so I think thematically the buffs helped her as well.
And she got God Heal, which is crazy.
Oh yeah, getting God Heal and Nate, that's great SC
really
save.
nice.
So yeah, some awesome SC saves. So I agree, definitely one of the best ones in there. I do not have Tank, even though I would like her, so that I could do some memey things in Arena with full dark teams. But I've heard nothing but good things. For me, I have 5-starred 3 units now. My first one was Dilmordo. He was my first unit that I maxed out completely in this game. So getting to, ADSC, level 100, blah, 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 all that stuff. So just on principle, plus his buffs looked pretty okay on paper. So I was like, sure, we'll try him out. Maybe it will be enough to bring him back to sort of those days when he had like a month of menacing Arena. Because I just remember dominating things simply because he was on my roster. So I did that, boosted him all up because he was my first 5-star, so I had plenty of resources to just throw and be like, oh, this is easy. I don't know what people are complaining about. And I would say in Arena, he was pretty worth. After people figured out what I was doing on my defense, putting him in and reconfiguring my team a little bit, I jumped from a 20% defense rate up to a 60+% rate with Dylan. So he does pretty good for countering Roy, just because he has that chance of basically he gets skill charges by taking fire damage. So he can nullify fire damage and then start throwing more skills because of it. So that's kind of his big thing, and he gained a lot of tankiness and damage cap, which is what he really, really needed. In PvE, he's still pretty dog shit though. Like he's really bad. Like I tried to max him out. I've got the fire UR to boost him up, and the problem is his hit count and long animation times. So his S1 I think has like 6 hits, which is pretty good, and his S2 is like 9, which is not bad. But the problem is the animations take so long, and he has no flinch resistance. So it's very easy to just interrupt and lose a ton of damage. And his big bread and butter is his S3. For some reason, it's the giant explosion. It's basically Roy's S3, except he dashes in, grabs somebody, delays, and then does it. But it's only 9 hits. So, like, it doesn't really matter how high your damage cap is, and, like, the fact that the animation's really quick. It's just not good enough. It's not good enough with only 9 hits. So if it was, like, 12, 15, you know, getting closer to newer units, it would be much more worth, but hits are just not bad. So in PvE, he is thoroughly unimpressive, unless you're specifically brawling a fire unit, like the Eliza Mega Boss. He can solo her, like, with no trouble at all. But, like, aside from niche cases, he's pretty bad. Arena, though, pretty okay. The other person that I did was Master Thief Robin. I was quite excited for him, just because back in the day I used to have him built as a mage, and he would do my auto farming just for his 15% chance to steal in addition to Thief Bangle. And then eventually I ended up finding out, probably from Jawline actually, that Yasha's chance to steal is a 20% chance, which means technically he's a better mage farmer than Robin, so I've been using Yash instead for that extra 5%. So I was hoping Robin's steal would go up enough to make him kind of be the best auto farmer, at least for getting passive drops. And I did a bunch of testing, and it seems like he has roughly a 25% chance now, so he is technically better. And the main thing that he got that was good is his steal now not only triggers on kill, but also on backstab damage. So it enables you to do things like for your spells, if you have any spells that trigger backstab damage, like I believe 3700 Years After does actually show backstab up on the screen. Things like that can actually make him farm a little bit better. And then the main thing I was able to do is he enabled me to make an auto farm team for Magic Tomes, which I put a video out recently for, where you can just force him to go and target Lily and then have roughly a 50% chance with all of the different things stacking up to be able to get the tomes. So now, because I 5-starred him, I can auto farm Magic Tomes and get like 40, 45 of them an hour, which Magic Tomes are not very fun to get, but you know, people can always just go and manually auto White Laboratory with Beast Hunter, but I don't got time for that.
No one does.
So
Nobody does.
Yeah.
Nobody does.
And you can technically do the same thing with Yash, but it was like 30% less drops with his stuff working. So, that was fine. And then now I finally got Roy leveled up to 100, so I was able to actually get him enhanced to 5, which has been my big excitement. I'm close to getting Ed as well. And obviously new units are totally worth, but they should help transition into our next topic, which is I'm hunting for rainbow clusters to get my last 3 upgrades. Because I just so willy-nilly was like, oh, I've got so many resources, I'm going to go upgrade Dill, I'm going to upgrade some stuff in Robin, and now when I get to units that matter, it's a little hard. It's a little bit tough. So, I think it's important to talk about, in general, like, conservation and using these 5-star enhanced resources wisely. So, you guys want to speak to any of that stuff?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that I just leveled up Lena 100% because of the solo conversation we've had.
Nice.
So, thank you for that. I've had so many clusters. So, like, we all know, dark times of LC, and then even into year 2, clusters were like the biggest thing, right? I mean, I remember my phone would be red hot in the morning because I would be auto farming at night. Um, so, waking up to 25, 30 clusters would be like, oh my gosh, who am I leveling up today? But now that we have the mega clusters and the level 5 enhances, I had that same mindset, except that when I started to realize how incredibly hard they are to get, and how much like real time you have to spend. I mean, it's not an auto thing you can do, right? You
Yeah.
have to multiplayer, so you have to be really engaged. And I'm guessing that's what they wanted us to do. And it kind of goes back to like the Dr. Stone collab, where if you wanted the unit souls, you had to play the game, right? I feel like we were in a. I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, like for me,
Yeah.
for me, I was like glued, right? I was doing unit souls like all day, for every single character. And then also, like I said, the auto farm thing for me, I was doing it nightly. A lot of sleeping and stuff like that, and letting things grind out. But yeah, the multiplayer thing. But like Zero was saying, you have to be very, very resourceful when it comes to using the lights and stuff like that, because as of right now, there is no real way to get them besides an event, or through the shops.
Yeah, which I believe the shops do at least refresh monthly. So like
Yeah.
we have at least a little bit of getting things up, and I think that it's kind of okay for the most part. Just because there's not going to be a ton of people aside from some of us endgame people that have so many things and we want to do all the things. But for your average player, trying to get somebody up to not only level 100, which is a task in and of itself, and then actually having the resources to do things, doing multiple units in a month is probably not super likely. But it does feel a little dry for those of us that want to be testing a whole bunch of things.
Exactly.
I've found rainbow clusters to be the biggest thing right now. Like I don't seem to have too much trouble with getting the actual colored mega clusters, but getting the rainbows to drop feels really rough. And I really hope that they do something like giving us an Alchemy 11 that gives a bunch of quality of life stuff. Like for the Godforge and the Limit Break bosses, let us combine the the high tier mats into the actual super rare ones, even if it's like a 50-to-1 ratio or something, like something crazy. I'm totally fine with it. And for mega clusters, like let me combine one of every color into a rainbow. Like,
Yes.
that doesn't seem too bad. I would take that. But anyway, so that's definitely tough. So now that I have units I actually care about getting leveled up, I can't do it. So because it takes way too damn long. But
Yeah, but I feel like the struggle now is nowhere near how bad it was back then in terms of like um being smart with your, I guess, resources. Because
yeah,
back then, but starting out, good God, it took so long to get one unit built up.
yeah,
It
dude.
was
It
ridiculous.
was a
And
milestone. It was a big
yeah,
deal.
like that was a
That's
big deal in and of itself. Whereas now it's like, all right, I can max this guy out, no problem. It's
Yeah.
easy. It's
Well,
easier, a lot easier
yeah. Well, I
than
think
back
the
then.
important thing is because we now have this big chase goal of 5-star, they've
hmm
introduced all this quality of life stuff to just make the 4-star experience so much easier. So I remember back when we got the multiplayer stuff, and there's a lot of people that were kind of upset, like, why are we having time spent on this multiplayer stuff? Like, only some people are going to interface with this and things like that. But I think it's worth reminding, like, the things that came with that was also like some of the new alchemy system and the new reward structures and drop rates for things. And like I don't know if I've been under 100 of any of the basic clusters in a long time now. And that's just because of like how good the drop rates are for some of this other stuff and the different resources we have from
Hmm.
leveling these things. So if we want to just get somebody up to a maxed ability abort at 4-star, it's way easier than it was months ago. Way easier. And I feel like the content is still scaled in such a way that you don't need 5-star for anything. Like you do not need a 5-star to complete any content in the game. You can do 4-stars
No.
across the board.
Uh-uh.
Like 5-star is like awakenings in general. Like it is luxury stuff to say, hey, I'm gonna be that much better than this other Roy or this other Lug or whatever. So just pushing further beyond for the units you really love, but you don't need it. So
I mean, look at my alt. Like it's a very good example because my
yeah,
alt, I re-rolled it. So I have an alt, and I re-rolled for Baron when Baron was out, I didn't have him on my main, so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just re-roll, get an account with him, get Sandworm, and then just go with it. So, long story short, I ended up steamrolling the entire story with Baron and Baron only. I had some help with like at the very few, like the monoliths, but
Hmm.
I just needed like a good support or whatever. But Baron single-handedly soloed the entire game. Like 99% of the game, he soloed it, and he had very minimal SC, like 50 SC with very minimal skills, and yeah, you don't need 5 stars or fifth in hands to do any of the content.
Yeah.
Like Pablo, I did Pablo with Gobble, Baron, and Theria, and it's really easy.
And so, out of curiosity, when you actually re-rolled that, how long do you think it took you roughly to fill out his ability board and just get all the nodes filled out for 4 star for Baran?
Well, the thing about it is, I went about it like I guess the smart slash resourceful way because I only went for this in terms of the skills. I only went for the skills that gave me utility.
Hmm.
Like for instance, I immediately went to Pose of Glory because that
Oh
was
yeah.
gonna help me out. And I went to what is it? The auto, his auto. What's it called? Where he that skill that you have to cast in order to
Oh yeah,
gain some.
Ruination. Ruination.
Yeah, auto
Yeah.
ruination. So I immediately went for that, and it took me maybe half a week, I'd say, to like get the important stuff, not to max them, but to
Yeah.
get the important stuff that actually was gonna
Yeah.
make a difference. It took about half a week.
Yeah. Was some of that stuff along that outer edge, like top tier stuff, or was it
Mm,
mostly relatively like mid tier and stuff?
yeah, it was like mid
Okay.
tier,
Yeah.
not like fourth enhanced stuff.
Yeah.
The outer stuff was cool, I guess, like sword mega
Yeah.
boost, that was cool,
But
but
not necessary.
yeah, I didn't. It wasn't necessary.
Sweet. Awesome. Um, yeah, for anybody that doesn't know, watch for Pose for Glory. I mean, we talk about Trish and Sandworm being the main things to re-roll for, but don't be upset if you get like Final Oath or
Hmm.
Rebel Dragoons, especially Rebel Dragoons because it's also got a skill charge on it. So for a new account,
Yeah.
it's pretty baller of an arc. Like it's really good. And getting
I was hoping I would get all the skill charges. I think I had
yeah.
gotten Grana Seas and then what was it? I got no, I don't have Caldina. Grana Seas and then Logia's Arc, Unchained Beast, and then Lily's Arc. What is it? Bell Tower for skill charge 3. Those three
Yeah.
alone,
Hmm.
those are great to have.
Yeah. So since we're talking about how hard things were before and how easy they've sort of become, is there anything else you guys want to talk about as far as where the game was versus how far we've come? Because we've talked about that there's been some dark days and we've had some really good things. Anything in particular that stands out in your mind in the progression of the game?
Other Souls. That was a huge thing for me, just because I didn't even think it was possible to get, whenever you first, hashtag Randy. Randy was, well, when Mana came out, Randy was this unit, and he was so good. He carried through the game. He was kind of like your Baron, but he carried me through the entire game. But it was interesting to see. I remember when I first saw like my first level 100 Randy, and I'm like, how long did that guy spend trying to do that, right? And then even to this day, I kind of I now I like have several characters ADSC or even higher, and I actually pulled out Randy on stream one day when we were doing towers, and poor guy, man. And this was my main unit for 6-7 months. Granted, it took me 7 months to get him to level 100, because I understood the game, but the farming, I guess it was my first real gacha. I didn't understand the whole farming idea. But poor guy, I looked at him, and he was like at 45 SC. And I was like, oh, just so abused, man. So, like the darker days, like Zero was saying, the level 100 was such a grind to get to. There wasn't any
Hmm.
real boosters, except I don't know if you guys remember, this will be a lot of the veterans remember this day, but one day we had I think it was a super gate or special gate.
Oh yeah.
And one day I was at work and I was sitting there and I was working on Randy because, like I said, he was my main primary unit. I maybe gotten to level 21 on towers. My goal was 30 this month when it dropped again. But I noticed that when I did the event, I think you get three. It was three a day. After the third try, it stayed there, and I was super confused, right? And this is before I even knew about the whole single unit more XP thing.
Hmm.
I Then I did it a fourth time, right? And I did it a fifth time and a sixth time. And I was like, what is happening right now? Is this infinite XP? And then later on, you found out it was a glitch. But guys, I've never been so scared in my life to turn off my phone because I had no idea what was going on. And because that's how scary it was to like miss out on this grand opportunity to get this XP because it just wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I can get a unit to a level 100 in 2-3 days tops. My
Yep.
fastest is about 2 days. Back then, 6 to 8 months if I really tried. You know? So
Quite a
like,
big difference.
yeah. So I mean, like, like I said, the Darker Days was definitely we actually had a pretty good start on the story. We had good content. Our first collab was fantastic. Our
Mhm.
second
Oh yeah.
collab was so good, the Doctor Stone. It actually made me want to dive deeper into the actual anime itself because I'd never heard of it. And by far, I mean, if you guys haven't seen Doctor Stone, check it out. It is so freaking good. And then you start to realize, how much attention to detail they put into those collabs.
Mhm.
And it's a big eye opener when you start hearing all the references in the show and what they actually put in the game.
Mhm.
So as you can see, it did start to get better from the start of of the when LC first launched. You can definitely see that they were trying to like kind of figure things out, which is why all of us really did just stick around, and now we're in a better, way better place right now, and it all thanks to the community for their input and everybody in the Discord and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Dark Days, and when we say Dark Days, I definitely don't want anybody to think like, oh, negative. It's just like it was just very, very hard to do things
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
then, and now it isn't. So it's that's how like the community and the devs are just really, really paying attention to everybody, and it's just gonna get better and better as time goes on. So yeah, and then the implementation of Mother Souls was like a huge thing because now we can actually really, really utilize, all these characters that were coming out. And then the saving, just like the way we were, saving these lights for, the 5 star, the same thing was the same method was used for these Mother Souls. Like you didn't want to use them because you're like, well, like I
Mhm.
need to concentrate on this unit specifically because of, what he's going to be capable of and what's more valuable to the team because then towers was the most difficult thing to do. I mean, I struggled so hard, guys. I mean, I was stuck on 21 for 6
Yeah.
months and another like 5 months on 54 with Rommel, and Rommel was Rommel, guys. Rommel, right? It was a very hard thing to take from him, but and then when I finally was able to complete that, you know it got a lot easier. But like I said, it's definitely been a ride. I'm definitely glad I stuck around. But
On that tower note, like the darker days, I guess tower back then when you did complete it, it was like oh shit, I completed tower, like I did it.
yeah.
But now for me at least now it's like oh, I gotta go complete tower. Now it's a chore.
Dude,
Like
how
man, do I really gotta do this?
how badly do we need to just have a start at 50 for people that already completed it or
Right.
something, like
Yeah.
or auto run. Just let us keep auto running until we fail. And just keep climbing
Right.
the stages. Like, yeah, it needs a rework. So I'm excited for the tower
Oh
rework.
my God, yes.
I really hope it's significant what they do. Whether it's like
Yeah.
a whole like Tower 2 experience, like completely change everything that's in it, a bunch of new rewards. What I think would be super cool, like my hope that they add to this game is some implementation of roguelike elements. Like whether it's
Yeah.
this or a dungeon type mode, like I want something where you go in, you beat something, and then you get to pick a boon for your team that persists through the rest of your 100 floors. You know?
Ooh,
And like you
yeah.
build up your team based on what you're doing. Maybe you have an all mage team, so you try to pick out all the things for that, or a specific elemental type, or maybe it makes your buffs and debuffs really crazy. Like I think there's a lot of space for improvement
Yes,
where
absolutely.
that'd be crazy fun.
On that note, because now we start talking about towers, and because we know towers is really just that good. It really is. And a couple of things that I would like to see in towers is maybe a year one called like a year one tower where we're only allowed to use year one characters. So therefore,
Ooh.
we
That'd be
would really
tight.
need. Yes, and therefore we would really need to like build a team for that. It would add more like I guess some charisma maybe to like these characters. Like we want I don't know, like your Lena would be a healer instead. We would see a Lena instead of a Theria. We would see a Shin instead of a Blaze Blade. We would maybe see some Kyles. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows, right? And we
And
would see
Hey,
and of course everything would have to be scaled to them. But I think it'd be like fun to see a year one tower. And then we have like the main towers as a challenge, like a challenge tower basically. Which we have already seen that they have implemented something like that with the Grave of Heroes fight, which was so much fun. I absolutely had a
yes,
blast
yes,
pulling all
more
the
of
bullets.
that. And
Yes,
Dark
yes,
Palace too,
how
absolutely.
about
forcing us
how
into
Oh,
about a
monster units.
monster only tower?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
dude. Yes, let's have all of it. I want all the
Absolutely.
difficulty challenges. Like, give us a reason to go do stuff.
Exactly.
Another thing that I think the game could really use is, I mean, I've talked about it before, but weekly and monthly challenges, like as an outlet for probably just increasing that gem, income for people because it's so incredibly slow. But also give us
Yeah.
a reason to go play some of the awesome content. Like if we're not making meme videos, who goes back to Pablo once they beat it?
Exactly.
Like
Right.
make it, oh hey, once a month, go kill Pablo in under 3 minutes with
Oh,
with
yes.
only ice units or
Yes.
something, Like
Right.
make it a weird challenge that maybe not everybody can complete as a monthly thing, and then have weekly ones that maybe everybody can do, like complete 20 mega cluster runs or something. I don't know. But yeah, just have things people can do over the course of a week or a month to just help.
Right.
And it actually reminds me, we're getting a couple people in chat now. Anybody that has any questions or anything like that, towards the end we probably will, barring time, take some questions and do a little Q&A at the end. So feel free to do that. So,
I wanted to mention you said auto being able to auto through tower up until we lose.
yeah.
On the topic of autoing, and speaking of darker days, anyone remember?
When before Auto Farm existed,
Oh
yeah,
God.
yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason it was so hard to level up, right? Because now we can just auto Imperial Guard Commander 3, and
Right.
like we're just gonna level up after a while. I will say I don't have nearly the experience with being able to level somebody to 100 in like 2 days, like you were saying, DK. So like, is there anything in particular that you do for that? Because like getting to 80, I find to be pretty easy, but 80 to 100 is still quite a grind. Like it still takes me a couple weeks usually if I don't have pots saved up.
Absolutely. And actually, I don't use any pots. So the first thing I do is normally I do get a pretty good advantage with the event. Somehow, whenever they do these new units, an event is open for XP. I always, and I know this is a little bit of a paid method, but I always do multipliers too,
Oh,
because if you
okay.
really look at the dollar amount, it's a couple bucks to save some time, so that you can really really get some testing in. Especially as a content creator, you definitely want to not spend so much time in the auto farming area, and try to get things rolling so that we can share our thoughts with the community as far as like how to build characters, and that's where I feel like a lot of my content kind of thrives a little bit is in my little trailers and stuff like that. But back to what I would usually do, like I said, I usually buy the multipliers, and I usually just spend either the 1.5 or sometimes I will do like the 2.0. And then I have the stage that I always recommend everybody, which is the East Great Mordana Desert. On hard, I usually do Waiting at Desert's End. That one with a 2.0 multiplier, you get around I want to say 50, 45 to 60, depending on if I'm correct.
Nice.
40 to 60,000 XP. 1.5 will get you around 37, but 29 to 37,000 per run. So the climb from actually 0 to 60 there is super minimal. You can do it within a couple, like maybe an hour or two, maybe, depending on if you bring in a good support. Uh, Also, I don't recommend it for the older units, although we do have that new UR arc that does transfer the XP over to both shift and regular unit. So that it was a huge benefactor into getting a lot of the units get up, especially with like the new Maddie that came out. I was
Oh,
able to
cool.
get her and the old Maddie up at the same time with that UR arc. Um, And of course, paying attention to the events. The events, they like I said, the devs have really paid attention to, ways to help us out and getting these units up, quickly. So do your daily events, 100% on
Awesome.
that. But yeah, that was the fastest. And like I said, the 2 day was probably because I had 2 gates open. I had I think I might have a 2 times multiplier, and then I was using 5-13 waiting at the desert end. And that's how I was able to do it. So yeah, if you guys don't know, check it out.
Awesome. Cool.
The-
Thanks.
I was gonna say the reason I brought up the auto in the darker days, I was referring to when Itis was trying to make auto run paid.
Yeah, that didn't last long.
Yeah, no. Like I think they mentioned it, and then we like immediately said something. They're like,
Yeah.
"All right, no, we're not."
We were
doing
like, no,
it."
just sit down, Atis.
Yeah.
Don't do it. They're like, my bad.
That
You guys
was-
can just have it. It's cool. It's cool.
That was a pretty bad time
Yeah.
for them. Like that, I don't know what was going through their mind.
And wasn't that like right before or after the initial Dr. Stone
Oh.
debacle that like made probably a quarter of the player base quit? like so many people were so mad.
I think so.
Yeah,
If
it was
I
real
remember,
close
I
to
think
that.
so. Yeah.
So yeah, it was dark. It was very dark. But yeah, things are looking up now. Things are looking pretty good these days.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've
So-
come a long way. They've come a long way from when we
Yeah.
first started.
I think
Log in every day.
even like it's obviously kind of older news at this point, but it's a new podcast. So one of the things in general is like Endgame content was basically non-existent. Like you beat Endgame bosses, and then you're like, I guess my end game is I'll go make some meme videos for the community or something. Like, there's literally nothing to do other than, like, I guess I'll build all my characters, so if I ever want to just test stuff, I can technically do that. But with all the multiplayer stuff and the God Forge and all that, like, there's a hell of a lot of grinding available to people now, so once you actually get through everything, like, there's a reason to go do some stuff, which is great. We need more of it still, which is
Yeah,
why,
for sure.
weekly and challenges and hopefully a revamped tower and so much potential. But I think oh, go ahead.
Oh, do you guys a speculation of what you guys think the last 10 the new 10 levels are going to be as far as rewards? I've actually been thinking about that a lot lately, and like what, because it's such a great tower to get mother souls, crystals, some pools. It's a very generous tower in my opinion. But I'm always thinking about those extra levels that we're gonna get.
Yeah.
And I was kind of curious of what you guys thought as far as what's
I'm-
gonna be in those levels.
I
And what
feel
they're-
like I feel like Lug for sure is gonna be somewhere in there. Like I don't know. I haven't really thought much about it, but I think my only input is that Lug has to be there. That's the only.
Oh,
input I
as
have.
like the boss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as one of
Probably,
the
yeah,
bosses, yeah. As one of the bosses, Lug has to be there.
So what I am hoping is that they do like what they did for 80, where we got an arc. So I'm hoping for either an arc or a unit tied to being able to beat that. So I am wanting to see more and more of that. So the fact that they put in like the free UR that's kind of blah for beating all the endgame bosses, and
Yeah.
Zlorg, even though like his numbers aren't good enough to actually really be usable, but like he's a really fucking cool character, and like if somebody just needs a rainbow mage, he can be a 100 SC rainbow mage like pretty easily and be pretty effective. Like I love having tangible things like units and arcs tied to in-game achievement, and I hope they continue that trend. So I'm really hoping that 90 has something else like that, because like you don't get a ton from that arc, but like HP plus 2 is huge.
Oh yeah.
It is
That's
such a
pretty
big thing.
Real
Like,
nice.
and 90% of units, it is the biggest way to boost your HP pool. So that alone is pretty good. Tower key, I mean, people use it, but I don't think 500 is really that good when you're
No.
getting 20k plus at this point. Like,
yeah.
But
And a free unit. You mentioned a free unit. That would be pretty cool.
yeah, even
Like,
it doesn't have to be
maybe-
top tier, but like Zlorg
Right.
level, like just like how everybody got Elfons, like he's niche. I think
Right.
that if we ever get content where a tank becomes beneficial, Elfons is going to be brutal. Like he's actually going to be a super good unit, but they haven't made anything that really makes us have to have a tank. But things like that, where like make somebody that's kind of niche and weird, and make them viable, maybe in a couple of cases or just for fun. Just
It's funny. Crypt in the chat, he's saying he wants Butterfly Lady as the reward for the final tower.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
But I think maybe a unit that would like, I don't want to say makes tower trivial, but maybe a unit that would help people clear tower.
Yeah.
That is, maybe. Well, I guess at that point, if you are able to clear it, you don't really need help, right?
True. Which is why I've always kind of not loved the tower weapon rewards. Because, like, to get them, you kind of have to beat stuff anyway. Like, you get stuff early on, so if maybe you're only getting up to 20 or 30, and after a couple months you can still only get to 20, 30, maybe 40, maybe you can get a piece of gear that's going to help you. But, yeah, if you can beat all the way to the top, though, what would be pretty sweet, maybe, you get all the way to 90, and then they give you a boon, just one of those passive items on your account that says, you get to start at 80 next time, and we'll just give you the rewards.
Shit, I'll take that.
Worth.
That's totally worth it. You kidding me?
Saves so much time.
Another UR, maybe another UR arc.
I know.
Instead of a LR, maybe a UR arc.
Yeah.
UR arc.
Tower
Blizzard UR. A Blizzard UR, please. Blizzard cap. I want it.
No, you gotta pay for those, my friend.
So as
hey man, let me pray a little bit.
As somebody that has a deep love for Rabla, they really need to give us an Earth Staff.
Yeah.
Because I think the Refia Spear is probably her best in slot, just so that Goddess Kiss actually does something sometimes, and it actually gives some actual buffs, whereas no other staffs do other than the Godforge one. And Refia technically gives a bigger boon to her earth damage than that giving a 15% magic buff. Well, I think it goes up to 20 probably at max. But
I think I heard someone say 25.
I
could be wrong, but
it could be.
I thought I heard 25.
Yeah, I think that's the robe though, because the robe goes from 20 to 25. I think the spear starts at 15. Everything goes up by 5 except for the UR. Except for the big boy rewards. The armor goes from 15 to 25, and then the UR sword goes from 15 to 25. I think everything else goes up by 5%.
Wait, 25 on the armor?
The armor goes to 25% damage reduction.
Holy.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I mean, granted, it takes 50,000 God Spheres to make, but,
Right.
You get there eventually. I'm still working on getting my sword up before I get there, but, yeah, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. So that armor is silly. So if you can't kill people in arena, that might be a part of the reason.
Yeah.
Throw that on Theria and boost up her defense a ton. Make her real annoying. All right. So something else that's pretty hot and everybody's talking about in general is all this excitement for new campaign stuff's coming, guys.
Yeah.
So I will say, full disclosure, I am very much a skip and go murder things kind of guy. So
Same.
So like I'm all about the theory crafting and the killing things and finding cooler ways to kill things. But I don't have time to sit and watch cutscenes. So I heard one time back in the day, maybe on a live stream, Buddha talked about maybe doing some lore videos sometime, and if he ever gets around to doing that, I'm gonna be all over that shit, because I used to do that. One of the games that I used to know life was Destiny 2. So I would play that every single week religiously with my friends, and their story in-game kind of sucked. So I would go out and find YouTubers that would compile all the stuff, get all of the like lore that's in the background stuff, mix it with the cutscenes, and then actually narrate through all the stuff. If we had something like that to go through and talk about all the history of LC and like the stuff we see in cutscenes versus the stuff that's in like lore text and things like that, I'd eat that shit up. It'd be so good.
I did, I actually was gonna do something very similar to that, but I did find a guy on the tube that actually it was very, very hidden, but I found a guy that he records every single event, and
Was that Jabber?
I think so, and he
I'm
actually
pretty sure that's Jabber.
Yeah, and it's all there. It's like a huge archive of the entire story that you go back and watch. And
oh, nice.
I watched like a lot of it, but he's just super hidden. I don't know if it's not like they're not linked correctly to where you type in LC and it pops up, but I mean, it helped me out a lot because I really wanted to go back and look at I think it was Logia's story. I wanted to go back and look at some stuff because I was trying to do a video on him. And I wanted to see like what was like kind of remember what it was, and he had it up there. So actually I was like, oh, that's awesome that somebody's actually doing this. Because I was gonna actually do that, but then I found out this guy was already operating in that area. So I was like,
nice.
Perfect. Yeah, so
Yeah, it's definitely Jabber.
Okay, cool, awesome, man. So you guys don't know who Jabber is? Go ahead and type in his name, check it out. If you guys are just trying to look at lore or like previous stuff, really really cool.
Yeah, you'll see him a bit in the over in the Reddit too. He usually comes in if people are asking really technical questions. I think he'll usually have some input on a lot of that stuff too. At least I see him quite a bit in there. So great knowledge source.
Yes, definitely.
All right, what was
As for the story, we're going to talk about
yeah,
the
story. So DK,
Yes.
you got any ideas, man? I mean, we've all seen the art, and the art was some super hot fire, right? Like, looks
yeah.
beautiful.
On the Reddit page, and that's when I saw people putting it as their actual phone screens. One guy, it was actually kind of, and it actually is a beautiful piece of art. But I am also, I have skipped some cutscenes, and I was telling the guys the other day, like, I have been accused of doing that.
Shame.
Because it was a
Shame.
shame. It was mostly the subquests. They just didn't seem too much interesting in me. So I went ahead and followed the story mostly. But I feel like the story is pretty, like it's pretty similar to a lot of JRPGs out there. But we do see at the very end, for spoiler, we do see Kyle disappear as he does say goodbye to his friends and stuff like that. And if you guys haven't played the story, definitely check it out. Really, really good. But that's another big. Before I jump into that, that was another big thing of reason why I kind of forgot a little bit about it, because it came in so many different parts at so many different times in the past 2 years. So it's kind of hard to keep that knowledge, especially with all the events that we've had, collabs, and there's so much reading into the skills and learning and testing and stuff like that. So sometimes the or just fall off a little bit. But from what I'm thinking and speculating on the story that's going to be taking place here next week, I feel like it's a different multiverse that Kyle gets thrown into, and that's why we're seeing him along with a possible another version of a little bit, or maybe a sibling, and maybe she has, a sibling. Maybe, if I'm not mistaken, Rabala and Baron are the mother and father of a little bit. Is that correct?
Spoiler alert.
Right?
We'll. I'm sure we'll get some people that are mad about it, but we should probably get good with spoiler alerts in general, end of the game stuff. But
that's not too spoiler, but I mean.
Well, no, but like the whole Kyle at the end thing. Yeah, maybe a little bit. But we're past it. It's done. It's done.
I did say spoiler, so just skip like the next 10 seconds into the future. Anyway. But yeah, so I'm just thinking that it is going to be possibly either a multiverse of some sort that we're gonna see maybe several years into the future, or maybe a whole different world, maybe like a high tech.
It seems futuristic, doesn't
very
it?
futuristic, flying cars, Back to the Future stuff. But yeah, and that's all we can go on right now is speculation. We don't really know what's going on, but. It definitely looks very, very promising. Maybe we're gonna start seeing more mech dragons, stuff like that, more mechanical beings.
Oh yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, because I know we're stuck on the dragons right now. Plants, beasts, creatures. Now maybe we're gonna see more like maybe a new Slayer, a mechanical Slayer, or I don't know.
I mean that's machines, so like we kind of have it already. But
but
maybe there will be some. Yeah, maybe there will be some like it'd be interesting to see some split typing and stuff too. Like maybe there could be dragon and machine, either Slayer works, and maybe there's some different implications that can come into play. So I'm eager to go ahead.
I was gonna say, what about the arc killing machines? Crip brings it up, the mecha in the killing machines art.
Yeah, we haven't.
Those would be pretty cool if they were implemented.
Yeah,
that's the one I'm talking about. That's what I'm kind of hinting. Like these new arcs that we're seeing are going to be like the future bosses for the next arc. So that'd be really, really neat.
Like that one, I don't know what it is, but it's holding that scythe, right? Maybe that could be a unit.
Right.
I wouldn't put it past LC making that a unit.
I mean, the sprite's there.
That's clearly, that's a pretty good sprite right there. If you ask me.
So it's a great idea. Actually, I'm actually really thinking about it. And the arc Terra of Grana Seas, isn't that the boss we fight in the MP towers? I mean the MP, the multiplayer Kraken.
The Kraken.
It kind of looks like him, man.
Is it the same
Let's
Kraken?
see.
It looks just like him. You guys are down with
Yeah,
it.
it
It
does
could be.
look like it. Yeah.
That's a good
Looking at it
connection.
right now.
I totally did not pay attention to it. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe we are getting like, oh man, now I'm thinking of Unchained Beasts. Like, oh man, like we're on a roll here. Like,
Yeah. Well, and just going back a little bit to an event that we had a couple months ago at this point, but their level of boss design has increased so much. Like between the Godforge stuff and then like, think of the Golroth event.
yeah,
Like making that boss come into the game, that was one of the most beautiful things. It looks so goddamn good. Getting that arc artwork into an actual end-game boss, like it was grotesque and weird and so highly detailed. Oh man, it made me so happy. I wish it was an actual in-game like boss that stuck around. You know. I feel like there's a lot of that stuff where they spend a lot of time and energy getting them in there, and then it's just a temporary event. So like, there's nothing we can do with it, which kind of sucks, you know?
Yeah, the in game. You mentioned in game bosses. One thing that I they should fix or do something with is that Kingdom Come tab.
Oh
Like
yes.
add more to that tab.
I
or
thought that was
switch-
going to be a growing list. It was exciting when we first saw it. I was like, all right, cool. There's a source of gems and there's some genuine challenges. Like, they're not anymore. Like, if you have the units for it, you can kind of crap on them pretty easy. But before, those were some hard fights when you did the
Yeah,
higher
or-
difficulty. Like, and they felt like puzzles, you know, at least in some ways. Like, you needed to either like play with the break bar or like really abuse some sort of like a stun mechanic and have like precise timing or, you know, whatever it might be. Yeah, I'm surprised.
Oh, Wish in the chat. He mentions something. Radia, is that the one from Star Calamity?
Yeah,
The arc?
yeah.
He says he wants that to her or I guess I'm assuming it's her to be a unit. But
Oh.
I'm gonna look at the arc and see if the sprite could hint at being a possibility.
Yeah, I can only imagine that, like, if I knew more about LC lore, there's probably so many good units that we don't have in the game, like just characters and legends. And it could also be interesting, like, this whole idea of a multiverse or going into the future or something. Like, if it is a multiverse, maybe there's an instance where legends of old that maybe have died are actually alive in this other universe. And so we can get to actually play with them because they didn't die in this alternate timeline or something. So, yeah, there's so many possibilities that could happen.
I want a young Balin.
Young
King Balin.
Balin.
I'd still like to have an old Bayland.
Oh, hey, the rework. Hey, the rework. I'm waiting for it. Oh man,
It's
yeah,
bug.
that comes out. I'm gonna have all mats ready. That's yeah. Cannot wait for that rework for Balin.
I can't wait for a Roland buff. I
Oh,
really
yeah.
hope that comes because when he dropped and was released, he was already outdated.
Yeah.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
I was so mad.
Poor
He hyped
Roland.
up so much. Oh man.
Like, I think that I initially rolled and like I didn't know or wasn't cautioned enough about like UR, so I was like, you know what, I'll roll a few times, maybe I'll get the UR. I don't really want Roland. People are hyped for him, but he doesn't look that great. And then I ended up getting Roland. I was like, okay, I guess. And like his moveset is really good. Like between hit counts and like the wide range of his stuff, he has a beautiful kit to use. He's just not quite spec'd out well enough for what he needs to do. His caps
by
aren't high
today's
enough.
standards.
Yeah, he needs more. So, but like some cap raises and like any amount of way to get SCT back, and like he'll be a great unit. I really wish that I had Winry's apple pie because I could absolutely make some good builds with him. I think
That S3 though. Oh, the most beautiful thing ever.
Oh yeah,
it's super good.
something-
Like
That's pretty cool.
Comment behind him or something like it just looks so freaking cool, man.
his whole thing, like even his S1 and S2 are really good. Like he has one of the better S1s in my opinion with how big it hits, and like anybody with skills that just automatically dash with no line of sight requirement is pretty great. So,
Definitely.
The thing with Roland is apparently Roland has better super armor than Baran.
yeah,
But the thing with Roland is that his attacks are so quick that it pretty much makes his super armor useless because Baran's all of his skills have a long animation, whereas Roland's is pretty quick. Aside from his S3, his S1 and S2, they're so quick that I don't think the super armor has a chance to like go
Yeah.
off. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Well, I think in PvE, I think that makes sense. The main place that I think that he has sort of a place, I mean, not much anymore, but he will after buffs probably, is in Arena, which obviously you said you don't do much for Arena,
Yeah,
but
I don't really
the
do
flinch
much at all.
resist is huge there, because if you get people that are like cheesing things with magic, maybe, it takes one tick of damage to lose all the damage from your animations. And in Arena, that's a killer, because it's just a skill economy and just a matter of who can use the right skills at the right times and not waste them, or who can interrupt skills so that you're wasting damage. And Roland still to this day, like, he can perform if you build him appropriately. So after the buffs, I think it's going to be similar to Dill, where he actually will be totally viable in that situation. But I'm hoping he'll also be PvE viable again, because yeah, his animations are quick and with decent hit counts. Like, he has the makings of a good unit. He just needs some better SC saves, because he fills up real quick because he needs so much. I mean, even getting an extra 10 SC is going to be huge for a 5-star enhance. So
Yes, and he's going to catch for sure, because he has been stuck at that 9 mark for a long time. And of course, there are other accessories that could get him past that, but it's going to be nice to see. I have a feeling that maybe do maybe 5k, maybe like do like another Dill, like an 8k cap. That'd be really, really nice to see that kind of damage coming out of Roland.
Doesn't Roland have 2K cap?
yeah, he's got a 2k cap on him. He was originally hyped up because he was like the first unit that had a cap increase, but then he ended up coming out late after, like, I think he was after Balin, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was after Balin.
So it's like, well, Balin gives everybody a 2k cap, so like, what the fuck you do, man?
Yeah, he's got a 2K cap innate.
Yeah.
Oh no, he does. Yeah, Imperator Prestige. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like, it's pretty good, but it's not quite good enough.
On the topic of SC saves, how do you guys feel about from the beginning, or I guess DK, you started at the beginning, right? Or more or less?
Right. Yes. No. Day one. I was
Day one. Okay. So what and you too, Zero. What are you guys' thoughts on, like, in terms of SC saves then versus SC saves now?
I think that things have gotten so much better in general. I think towards the end of last year, unit design in general has improved significantly, because power creep was a major problem, and like, I almost quit the game before, and I saw it as a short-term game simply because I saw how harsh power creep was. Like, we could have a unit like Celios come out, and he was super hot, and then it was like a week later, the next unit, whoever it was that came out, they're just like, Celios doesn't really matter anymore. Like, they were dropping units, and they were literally twice as effective as the person that came out a month before. Like, it was rampant. And I was like, okay, well, this is one of those gacha games where it is literally just, you have to get the newest thing or you cannot play the game. But they started to have, it seems like either they got some new like heads in the design room, or got a new philosophy towards the end of last year where, yeah, there's been some power creep, but things have had longevity. Like, units that came out in November, December of last year are still meta today. You know, between Theria, Ray, like, totally viable. Maybe, I think Lily, maybe not as much unless you have all the proper tools, but most of the unit design that has been coming out has been not only more thematic than it was before, and having more SC saves, like you said, but has been more of like a niche case in some sort of regard. Like, you can compare two units, and almost never do you say this is literally just a better version of this person. Like, almost always it's, well, in this situation this one's better, in this other situation someone else is better. And I think the SC saves, more things coming in a kit, helps them to solidify more of a feeling and a theme. Like, if I look back at original before any sort of buffs, like Goroth and Gorm and Medine and things like that, I didn't feel like they had a sense of presence. No. Like what's the power fantasy there? Because they just failed on so many levels, because they just didn't have enough things coming with them. Even the good units, like Randy was good at the time, but it was just because his numbers were really good. Like, thematically, right, there wasn't a ton that was really there, but the newer units, they come with not only unique things, but things that just generally make them powerful. So you look and you're like, this is someone for fighting humans, and for wave-based combat, and for, like, this other thing. But they might struggle in these 2 or 3 areas, and you need to build heavily to put them into these other situations. And, some units maybe are more versatile than others, but yeah. So I think where they are now, I like way more before, just because it's hitting that power fantasy and then allowing a lot more creative freedom for your builds, too. When you don't have to spend SC on so many mandatory things, you can kind of branch out and do weird stuff.
I feel like we started to see like a bigger case of SC saving when we had Logia dropped. I mean, you guys know that like that guy's kid is phenomenal.
Dude, he's still so crazy. I can't imagine him getting a buff. Like if he gets a cap increase, he's gonna be top of the chart again.
He really is.
Like,
so his hit counts are crazy and quick.
Yeah, dude, that S3, S3 before Helter Skelter, I think his S3 was still probably the best in the game until Helter Skelter, and now we have Lug, obviously, but yeah.
But it's just insane, all the research. I believe it was the research. It's been a minute since I played with him, but all his S1, S2, S3 all do something. Like S2 did the illness, S3 did stun, and S1 did poison, and then the rot. Status element too and it was easy to obtain S4 with him. I felt like I was just constantly getting it over and over again. He was actually like really, I was really new to the whole status ailment game, and just to see all those pop up from one unit and then all those hits, and he does kind of have like, he can kind of clear like an area. I feel like all of his techs kind of have like a little bit of an AoE. Yeah, it's just, and then we got Guardian Lukiel, which we all know, like everybody knows her now. Like it was, what did we get? We think we got the first Thunder Mega Drive, if I'm not mistaken.
High Drive.
Drive, there we go. Not Mega. No, we're on Mega now. But yeah, the High Drive, and I remember seeing that. I'm like, holy crap, her kit is just so good. Her free kit is so good. Thunder Boost, Thunder High Boost, Thunder Mega, Thunder Crit. Thunder attack raise, Thunder crit raise. I mean, that's
it's just so much. That's when they really started to, I think, take risks and like really power people up. For the most part, like there's a couple exceptions and sort of pitfalls along the way, but I think that's when there was that major shift where like everything coming out was powerful somehow.
Yes. Yeah, I'm loving the way that the design of the characters work, especially when we talk about kits. We're like, oh, their free kit is so good, and that people are kind of more understanding what we're talking about. Like, Maddie has an amazing free kit. New shift, Maddie has, and a lot of the units now, we're just kind of like really interested to see, what the kits are going to be. Like, I mean, the new Roy. I mean, come on. Man.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to note for people too, because like I think usually in the conversation, a lot of times what comes up is like, how good can this character be? And it's like, I think Lug's a good example of that. Like at base, he can do quite a lot, but I think once you get towards like getting into endgame, if you don't have the right tools, I don't think he's going to perform quite as good as somebody like Roy at base. Like there's almost nothing you need to give to Roy that's not just like some extra flair, no pun intended. But like Lug, you want him to be dual wielding. You probably will want Trishula unless you're stacking debuffs and stuff. I mean, you're probably going to want Pirate Feast for most content and stuff. There's a lot of these different things, skill stock ups, all these different things, and other units maybe you just don't need them. But then we look at units like Logia, Swimsuit Alice as well. Like when you come with dual wield, Proud Force, Pose for Glory, like all of these things, a new account getting one of these things, like you don't have to rely on anything for a very, very long time. So, I just think it's important for...
My thing with Lug was, like, he's great, like, he's amazing for sure, no doubt. But when I first got him, which was from a daily single, by the way, when I first got
single pull power,
I noticed that he needed a lot of investment. I needed to give him, tons of boosts in order for him to reach that high damage cap. Like he comes with, Brute Slayer, Human Slayer, special boost, and all that. But I don't know, for me, it felt like I had to give him more boost.
I heard that too. I've heard that from other people too. They were like, yeah, it's not easy to hit those caps.
You have to put work into him, and that can be hard for a new player. 100%.
Yeah.
Right?
But I think that's perfect. Like, I really think that for them coming out and saying, I thought it was a great move to just say, this is our pinnacle of power.
Right.
Like as their dev philosophy, we're not going to power creep this. Like maybe there will be side steps. Like Roy, I obviously pretty up there. Pretty up
Yeah.
there for sure.
Right.
But like if you have literally everything in the game and you can have a perfect setup, Lug will outperform Roy. For sure. But like that's not going to be for everyone. So like he's the god of DPS, but not for everybody. And I think that's great,
Right.
you know? It's just another one of those examples where it's like, you know, this is good, but it's not always the best. And maybe not for everybody, it's not always the best. So like I think the power creep is fine. So and then, you know, I'm excited to see the potential moving forward for new units of seeing how we can kind of have these power sidesteps of like I want to see some new mechanics come into the game because I think it's kind of been a while. I want to see things like, you know, maybe enemies can get elemental shields. So like if you have the right matching elements, you can like strip things really, really quickly in order to damage them. Or maybe different sorts of support tech that can be interesting. Like why don't we have a magic skill that literally puts barriers on people other than, you know, Star Heal and Theria? Give us a barrier support unit. Like that just puts temporary health on people. Like there's so many things that can be explored that could be overpowered, but in different ways. So I'm excited to see where things go, and I think the next year is going to have some very interesting things.
Definitely.
You want to say something, DK? I was gonna.
No. I was agreeing. I would love to see a barrier unit. I'm thinking of like I'm already planning in my head how that would work out, and it just like, yeah, it works. It worked really well.
Oh, I was going to say, you mentioned you want to see, new units and their kits and whatnot, but what about from the beginning to where we are now, in terms of like arcs and the quality of the arcs, like the skills that they bring, the traits, from where we started to where we are now? Like I feel like I made a video where I say I don't need new units, which I don't. I'm more interested in arcs and like their skills and the quality that they bring, like how, like their longevity, you know what I mean? So I'm more interested in the future arcs and seeing what they bring as opposed to units. While new units, you know, new shiny toys to play with, that's always great. But new skills that one new skill maybe could force you to play, I don't know, a certain unit a completely different way, or it opens up tons of possibilities. Maybe not a lot, maybe like one or two, but I feel like the quality of arcs have improved from when we first started to now.
Yeah, I think that in some regards it's true. I think that there has been a bit of a consistency in arcs overall, just because, I mean, if I look back at like a lot of the old arcs that there's still so many that are valuable to pull. Units, it's not true. So like obviously the most sought after ones that there are ones that were in the game at launch, and I do think that there's new skills that are coming in that are making things really awesome, like pulling in you know, some of the hybrid skills that units have, like the resolves and arcane skills, like getting some of those on arcs to be able to hand out would be nice. Getting the new summer one added a huge tool for people that were actually able to get it. Like being able to have fast recast on literally anyone, that is massive. Like that's a big deal. It means like, I mean, I was talking about, you know, using a rogue for your auto farmer before. It means that you can run Thief Bangle while insta-casting after 3,700 years. You couldn't do it before. You had to have Radstone, and now you don't need it. So just little things like that. And then in obviously Arena isn't as relevant to you, but you don't need to have Maiden's Lovely Banquet if you wanted to be cheesy with Theria. I mean, Theria is not as meta as she once was, because now you can just murder face with Roy or Lug. But if you're trying to run something with Theria where the cheesy thing with her is to do an AoE heal instead of just God heal, because it's barely more MP, but it gives everybody barriers. But the only way to instacast in an arena was that you need to have Maiden's Lovely Banquet. And some people started well after that, or they didn't pay attention enough to actually get the arc, which feels bad. So they have to wait until probably next Valentine's Day, where we hopefully get a rerun. Maybe. And then you can do it. But now, if you happen to get this LR, you could just give her fast recast for the first 40 seconds. She could be cheesy and annoying. Which, if she survives for the first 40 seconds, you're probably going to win the match anyway. So,
On that subject, though, now that you guys are talking about arcs, yeah, I 100% agree with Joe on that. For me, though, I'm actually looking for, yeah, because I know that it would be kind of, you'd be able to really, really cheese stuff off if you had like an anti-flinch skill to get to every single unit, and that would make Arena a living nightmare as far as who's who first.
Yeah.
Basically, who's gonna knock out who with what. So it would be kind of nice to have an anti-flinch arc so that you only have it for one person and you basically get to choose who that one person's going to be as your primary damage dealer. Like for me, it'd probably be like Dante. I've been a big fan of Dante these past couple months. Just to see, him do his work without any kind of, with like a flinch resistance would be really, really valuable. So yeah, I mean, you guys, I think you would like to see a barrier. Ja would like to see, what was it, recast, instant cast, you said? Yeah, was it, that what you were saying with that arc? What would you like to see with an arc? As far as
No,
like,
I was just saying I'm more interested in arc skills. Zero
right.
mentioned
Yeah.
about the new arc having the fast
Yeah.
recast.
Oh
And,
yeah,
Yeah,
would
I,
say,
I do agree with you on the flinch resistance, and I see it very similar to fainting. Like, I don't think it matters as much now, but it used to be a big deal when people couldn't just, hit stupid damage cap numbers, where fainting, that's the reason ThatZero was so broken, is people could ignore the fainting mechanic altogether in Arena.
right.
It just wasn't a thing. So things like Stonebird was really valuable, or the bell tower arc that gave you faint immunity was a big deal. So I'd love to see something like that, maybe an item and an arc. So like if it was important enough, maybe you could have that on your units, but you have to pick who actually gets it.
Exactly. There has to be some kind of planning in it.
Yeah, it's kind of like Trishula. Like, you have something that's really powerful, but you have to use it in the right spot. Like, there has to be a trade-off somewhere. Not that Trishula is balanced in any way, shape, or form, but you get it.
Thing is OP.
But on that topic, I would love to see some things that do similar things to Trishula to make it less mandatory. One of the things that I noticed with Roy, the way that I like to build him, I absolutely do not use Trishula anymore whatsoever. I just go in and generally resistances on basic ads are not crazy high enough that it matters. And then once you get to bosses, I have weak. I have the Earth Magic Circle to drop him by 20, and then his S3 almost always applies his debuff, so that's a minus 60. Like, that's usually enough to be doing usually in the negative of damage, which means his autos just do stupid amounts of damage. And that can be applied to a lot of people, but not everybody has ways of applying that elemental debuff. So like Medine, when you get to a boss, she probably has her ult. So like if you need to, you could get that drop and then apply circles and all that, and she could be doing a lot of enhanced damage, especially with Icy Guardians. You can kind of double dip on that elemental damage that you're doing. But I'd love to see a weapon that's like physical attacks or crits have a chance to apply an Earth Down debuff or something, and be like, okay, this is what you want now to go on this particular unit because it gives like a 30% Earth debuff or something. Like, you don't need Trishula anymore because you can stack debuffs and use this weapon in order to get you to that point. So I'd love to see things like that that aren't as broken, but are niche and applicable for the units that want them.
We do have Unchained Beast, the King's Fiend Horn, the Arc Ether, which is it's like Trishula, but to a lower extent. And then there's Sulfurina Arc, which does something similar, I believe, to King's Fiend. The weapon, I forget how much it ignores or how much it lowers it, but it's similar to that.
Yeah, so something along those lines. Because it's a good example. Like, I'll run the Fiend Horn on like DeGroat because her damage is so high, and the fact that it's Dark Attribute means Goddess Kiss works. So works pretty well on her, but I don't know. I'm not going to run it on most units, especially when Trish exists. So that's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, Fiend Horn is good if you don't have Trish, but it's still kind of just fine. It doesn't feel like it does quite enough. Maybe the percentage chance just isn't high enough, because I think it's only like somewhere in like the 20 to 50% chance of like doing it. I think it's like 20% chance to reduce defense by 50% and a 20% chance to reduce elemental resistance by 50. Something like that. So like you have a chance at one of the effects or a chance at both, and yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I digress. All right.
That Steam release though.
Yeah, that's going to be kind of exciting. I'm hoping that makes auto running even better, because my emulator's been kind of shitty lately.
Yeah, it crashes a lot.
Yeah.
You guys use emulator? Or just get an iPhone.
Yeah. My iPhones are all fried, so and I moved to Android late last year, so
Oh,
it hurts. It hurts playing LC now.
you crippled yourself.
It feels bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an iPhone guy. Yeah, so LC is on an iPhone all day.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
because most of the players uh, are like, I feel like they're scaring away people just because of, or they're scaring away the Android users,
Yeah.
because of performances and whatnot.
Yeah, I think it's been extra bad since DMC, and there's been a lot of drops. Like even towards the end of last year, I didn't notice the frame problems quite as much as everybody else was talking about. Like I have a higher end Android anyway, but now at this point in the game, like
Hmm.
it's brutal. It's really really bad, and I don't know exactly what goes on with all the coding on the back end and stuff, but I feel like if they just gave us a setting to toggle off damage numbers, it would help a ton. Because I feel like the biggest problem is when there's too many damage numbers on screen. Like, they have all the calculations, but I think putting the visualizations in of every individual hit, like, that calculation and then presentation on the screen, I feel like that has to be a large factor in the problem.
Yeah, I could see that. It's a lot of numbers, especially if your units have high hit counts, and if you're doing MP with other units that high MP high hit counts,
Yeah.
that definitely takes a toll.
Yeah, I've seen other games do similar things where it's like either turn off or use like simplified damage numbers. So like maybe if there would be 20 hits on screen, maybe it just shows you like an average of them and it just pops up like once you can kind of see what you're hitting, but it doesn't show you like every individual thing stacked up on top of each other. Um,
Oh yeah, like an all around damage count, like damage amount
yeah,
at the
something
end
like
of a
that.
combo. That is
Speaking
really cool.
speaking of damage numbers and things, I know they're going to keep working on multiplayer because it's their new hot thing and it's a big deal, and I want them to keep enhancing it. One of the things we really need is some after battle reports. Like I want so badly to have things where they go in and they're like amount healed, who dealt them, like amount of damage dealt, or whatever it might be, like interesting fun things. Like at the end of a game of Overwatch or like many other games that are out there, just like, oh, this person gets the badge because they're the person that did this special thing, and like
Hmm.
there's interesting things. Then being able to look at your damage, like, oh hey, I did 75% of the boss damage, I feel like a badass, cool. Or I thought I was doing well, I wasn't, this guy did all the work. I think
I
it's
feel like that would
important.
make people toxic. Like, oh man, I did all the work. Look at these guys; they didn't contribute
Oh
nothing.
That's
man.
I feel like
possible,
that would
yeah.
be me. I'd be
Yeah.
like, man, I carried the team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be. For me, I feel awesome just being like, oh, cool. I helped carry all these people that weren't able to do as much. Or, hey, this person did really, really well. It's nice to see somebody that like has this thing built really well or whatever.
Right, right.
Really.
But the
If
big
we're talking
mistake,
multiplayer though, that
yeah,
we need to be able to change our stuff inside the menu versus missing out on. We're like, oh crap, we need this layer, that slayer, and by the time we change it and we go back in, we were missed out on the room.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
being able
That
to
needs
toggle.
be
And also, why can we not hold a party?
right.
Like
Your-
why do we have
your
to,
team's
especially
growing.
for private, you have to give new ID codes to people to get into your room after every run. It is the
Right.
worst experience ever. It's so bad. Like when I'm streaming, like I'll go and I'll do it cuz like it's nice to just be able to run with chat and stuff, but um it, I'm tempted so
Yeah.
many times to just go do pubs because at least it's quicker than trying to, make people go in and put in the number, and it adds a few minutes in between every run just to get a whole team together. It sucks.
Yeah,
But
I've been playing a little bit, well, a little bit off topic, but I've been playing Grand Summoners, and I did multiplayer, and they have that option of like, so you give them the code, and then once they're in, you can invite them to farm. So there's your farm party.
oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
that'd
Let's
be
do
pretty
that.
cool. Hmm.
That would be great. That would be absolutely great. Um, yeah, I had something else that I was going to say, and I don't remember anymore, so it probably wasn't that important. All
What
right.
what would you, well, I don't know. I guess this would be for something else. It's not really like uh, well, I guess what a quick advice would be, or what would your quick advice be if to someone was to start the game, brand new? What would be your maybe like top three things to do?
Top three things is try to roll for one DPS unit that excites you. Like somebody that you want that is at least like an 8.5 or higher on the community tier list and a DPS unit. Like it doesn't have to be super crazy, but you have to like them and they should be good. They should at least be somewhat good. 2, focus on campaign. Just get through campaign so that you can get soul spots.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
I've done a couple of my like playing doctor things where I'll go on and look at people's accounts, and it hurts my soul when you go in and it's like, oh, been playing for a few months and there's like 3 soul spots unlocked. Like not leveled up, just unlocked because which is hard because like if you get that FOMO of playing events, like in gachas, it's hard to know when it's worthwhile to go spend your time doing events that are limited time and like you should be doing those things versus going to do the core campaign. But Elsie's one of those games that like you want to get through at least normal mode, bare minimum, because you need to start, generating that revenue. And then leveling up those soul spots is another big thing. The other thing probably is trying...
I would say just focus on your team.
Yeah.
Since you can only really use 3, I would say focus on 3 of them. Well, I would say a hardcore focus on 1.
Yes.
Because the way I saw, or the way I played my alt is... I focused solely on Baran, and even then, it still took me a while to get him like to where I was like, all right, well, this is enough investment where I'm gonna get something out of it. So, I guess don't spread your resources. Focus on just 1 unit.
Yes, specifically DPS first, and then after that, a support. Doesn't even have to be the best support, but there's a lot of good enough ones out there. So like people can usually luck into getting like Lena or Tink. I'm guessing Lilia is maybe good enough. I don't know. Lila, maybe. I don't know. She has at least God Heal, right?
Yeah, she's got God Heal, but you got a 4th enhance it. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, so that's a little rough.
I'm pretty sure you have the 4th enhancer.
Okay. But either way, like there's some decent options out there that you could get. Maybe even OG Theria starting out if you got nothing else. Like she could probably do okay enough. I think everybody gets Melza, right? Like Guardian Melza. Is she after her buffs? Is she at least okay enough? Like, could she just be your support if you have a DPS unit only?
I haven't looked at her, to be honest.
So yeah, I think it'd be worth looking at though. So if everybody gets her for free, that could totally be like an outlet. Because I think she buffs.
If she's only usable after 5th enhance, I don't know about all of that.
Well, yeah, but I thought they buffed other things too. I thought they buffed some of the ways up. But if all the buffs are only in 5-star, then yeah, it doesn't really matter. But still, getting any of them, like any support, also is good. But yeah, I agree. Focusing on 1 DPS, definitely a big deal. All right. Awkward silence. Good stuff.
I was actually reading the chat because one guy was talking about Graven and Luger should be valuable. I was actually thinking about when I pulled Graven myself. I was so excited.
He looks cool. He looks awesome.
Such a cool looking unit, man. I just saw that and I was kind of like, I haven't even got to really look at chat yet, so I went ahead and got super quiet reading all these ideas. But yeah, I did see that somebody did putting a Graven, and like I said, it did remind me of when I first pulled him, and I thought he was like the coolest looking dude with his wings, and I actually did put a lot of work into him. He's actually one of the first units that I put like crazy work into before Randy came out. But then, like I said, he kind of fell off. I was very new to LC at the time, so I didn't know what was important and what was not important. Right. But I would have to agree 100% with ThatZero on the start, the first start of his DPS, and of course try to aim for Caldina. I'd always say either Caldina or Sandworm. I think it's great to try and get both, but I would probably go for Caldina first.
I think another factor that's important with re-rolling as well, just to talk real meta-y, is it really depends what your starting unit is. Because if you start with a unit that already has dual wield, you can wait on getting dual wield. Or if you come with a unit that's a neutral damage, you like Baran, you want Sandworm. You do not need Trish yet. Eventually you're going to want Trish, but it doesn't matter. And then there's some other units like Ray, for instance. Ray, one of the main things you need, obviously Trish is good, but as a secondary arc to look for, Icy Guardian, because you can get Proud Force at like level 3 or 4. Yes. And getting Proud Force on a DPS that comes with a crit package early on means you might not even need a support for most of the campaign. Like, you know, there's these little things where you try to, if you can do a little bit of looking to see what they come with, you know, it can really impact, because there's never a one-size-fits-all in Last Cloudia. Like, everything is situational. So every time somebody asks, oh, what's the build for this? What fight you doing? You know?
Yeah. What are you trying to do?
And it's the same thing for, you know, what is the best of anything. So...
like you were saying, the first thing that I would do as well is those soul spots. Like I've tried to help out people's accounts, and they'll give them to me, and I look at them, and it's level 2 each soul spot. I'm like, oh man. No. And when I'm trying to help out, I literally run out of blue orbs.
Yeah. Well, like, it's hard. It's hard because of the bait of the arc system is so beautiful in this game. So like you want to play with all your shiny things. Like the art looks really badass, and you're like, oh, I can teach all these cool skills to people, but like the game doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't give you any fair warning of what's important. So it's a trap. What I usually tell people is like, if there's anything at like level up to 3 that you can get on like a blue arc, okay, then maybe if it's going to be a big power boost, like, you know, Pose for Glory, then yeah, totally, or a skill charge, like that's probably worthwhile to go for. Otherwise, only level red, because you literally don't need red for anything else. You know, like red is your fun orbs early on. Blue, really blue needs to go into your red spots, but red is just used for upgrading arcs. So go crazy, find filter for red, because we have the cool filter feature now, and then go find all your cool stuff there. You know,
right.
Because
you mentioned red, and I think when I made my alt, the only arc that I put red souls into was probably Dimensional Rift, just because it has Sky High, and the only other arc that has Sky High is Shin's arc.
Yep.
But that's a SSR, and then that's at level I think like 6 or 7. So I was like, you know, I'm probably just gonna get Sky High on Dimensional Rift just because it's a red and it's a R arc.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what you're saying, the red souls are definitely more, I guess, you could definitely spend them more in the beginning versus the blue souls. Blue souls are so important.
Yeah, you need to be stingy because it is expensive. Also, this is a very minor tangent, but what is more satisfying than having a new arc come out, you get it in the gacha, and then you start leveling because of how the caps are, and at level 6 or 7 it flips to red and you can take it all the way to 10.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh god, that's a satisfying feeling. Because otherwise, like, the cap's not high enough. Even if you are capped right now, like, you can't take a blue all the way to max. Or I don't even think you could take a red all the way to max. Like, it has to be one of those that flips in the middle, and you need to be capped on both. But, yeah.
You are going to be playing the waiting game a little bit.
Anyway.
But we have, like, they have been generous in the past with, like, the 2 times or the 1.5 soul spots increase.
Yeah.
So that's, like, the greatest time to be leveling up your arcs. Before that, I would concentrate mostly on your R's, get at least the most important R's. Just by reading them, you can kind of figure out, you know, the attack ups and stuff like that, defense up, MP up, stuff like that, and then go ahead and move slowly towards the SSRs and grab like the valuable skills out of those. But I tell everybody, like, when people are like, oh, I only pulled blues when they first started, it's all blue and gold. I'm like, you don't understand. Like, those are what's going to help you throughout the story. Those are going to be like the key factors in getting your character to a certain point before you hit like that.
Yeah, it gives you the core fundamentals. Like, most of the SSRs are just extra flavor, which I'm really sad that they decided that, like, LRs are the main thing coming in. That's one of the things, like, early on, or even in a new account, it's so exciting getting anything new, whether it's gold or blue, because, like, it's all tools in your toolbox, you know? And, like, it's something new you can use to be able to do something you couldn't do before. And the fact that now, when we get new arcs, it's, well, when we get a new banner. So, like, we might get one new arc every month. Maybe every 2 weeks if they're real, like, snappy on their cadence of releasing content. And sometimes it might just be a rerun and we'll have an old arc, so we won't even get a new one in a month. So I feel you, Jawline, on we need some more arcs. Like, I would love if, like, one update that they brought in was just like, hey guys, we haven't made any improvements to stuff, but here's 10 new arcs in the general pool. Or here's a rework to the gacha system. Like, we need a new gacha system pretty hard.
Right.
And like, yeah.
And speaking of arcs, and going back to the dark days, how about that arc level selector?
Oh,
From
yes.
back then to now.
Oh, it's so good. Ether grinding is so much easier now. Auto
That
farm
was-
plus arc selector or level selector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was early on. You had to be real selective on what you leveled. Huh?
You don't like wasting 4,000? I love it, man.
But I remember I had gotten pirate ship to level 10, and I had it
It's
at
a trap.
95% ether, and farming those last 5% at level 10. Jesus Christ, that was so
man.
bad.
Yeah, it was
I've
rough.
never suffered so much in my life.
Yeah, and I think that's another important thing to tell new players because a lot of people don't notice because the UI is not obvious on that. And there's some people that'll like run their highest level arcs for campaign, and it's like you probably don't need the minor power you're getting from those, and you are tanking your soul resources to run those through campaign. Just run at level 1. Like, you don't need the extra, power from it. But
Beast Hunter at level 1 is really great.
yeah. Another side tangent, just because you brought up, we were talking about older units and excitement and Graven specifically. I think it's a good example of like old units and how they didn't hit a power fantasy appropriately, where he has weird things that deal with casting magic, but he's also supposed to be like the sky high person, like that deals with things in the air. So he's just such a mixed bag of what there is. And I was thinking, I hope that whenever we get a shift, they really lean into that sky high, like the airborne thing. Like, what if we had a unit where one of his skills not only launched someone up, but like made an invisible platform, like an astral platform just for him and a unit, and you can isolate a unit for like 10 seconds up in the air, and like they can't come down. So like you're getting all the sky high damage while you're up there, and they're just taking out of the fight unless you have things with like tons of range. Like the dynamic that changes when you do weird things like that could just be so interesting. Or maybe you could have like this weird juggle where an S1 hits people, but if you're in the air at the end of like an S2, maybe you stay in the air and you can keep doing aerial combos, like it's Devil May Cry or something. Like air juggling is just so cool. And like I was hoping honestly that Dante would technically be a sniper, and I was hoping his auto attacks would be with Ebony and Ivory, and he would have a knock-up, and then if you autoed, it would juggle people in the air. Like, that would have been the coolest fucking thing ever. Missed opportunity.
I think I was like thinking about that the way you said when you were talking about that. I was like, oh, I hope he's gonna mention like some kind of juggling mechanic where like if you throw in the air, it like gives you like a time stop, and then you can send another player into it to finish it or something like that. That would really change like the whole like algorithm of the game and fighting and stuff. That's actually a really, really good idea. I hope they do that in the future.
You know what else would be cool is if they played into like kind of the flavor of units, and they started doing what some other games do, where if you have certain units that are maybe having some sort of a connection or a bond in the story, like lore wise, if you have both in the team and you have both their specials charged, you get a unique special.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool.
For like using a combination of like Unity units.
Right.
That would be super dope.
There's a lot of potential in this game. It really is. I really hope they utilize it to its fullest, because it really is endless. There's so much that they can do, especially from what we know from RPGs growing up. You know, we've seen a lot of crazy stuff, and this game has the potential to do that. So I definitely hope they go that route in the future. Year 3, man. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. I'm very hopeful.
You mentioned juggling in the air, but I had forgotten someone that I also 5th enhanced, and that was OG Shin.
Yeah.
And he got a 5K cap from straight. But then his S1 also got like a 30K cap.
Yeah.
So
but isn't he like Robin, where like he only has like one hit or something? Or does he actually have some... Okay, yeah. So it doesn't really... It's still really bad.
Well, yeah, but it's like 40... it's funny seeing 47K on his S.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's just not that useful is the problem.
50K cap. Never mind. He's got 50K cap on his S1.
Yeah.
And his S, it's cool though because I like his S2 that combos into his S3. Pretty. I don't know if you've ever used them,
No,
but
I haven't.
you can do his S1 into S2 into S3. It's pretty sick.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
obviously his hit counts are pretty shit, but like his moves, pretty
Yeah.
solid.
Well, I think it's important, like a unit's like play and how fun they are and how well their skills flow into each other is really important too. And I don't think people talk about it enough. Like Dante, I think is easily the worst of all the DMC units, even though I've grown to like him. But the way his kit flows together, especially in something like Arena, is beautiful. It is so fun to just like chain, like dashing to something instantly without line of sight into a big barrage of an S3, and then like if something's weak, being able to hurl a fire wave at somebody across the map, and then go back to dashing to somebody else. Like, it's really neat, and it's looked like new Alice looked ridiculously fun too. I wasn't lucky enough to pull her, but it looks like her skills kind of combo together pretty well and in really interesting ways, much like what you're talking about with Shin. And I think it's a really important thing as fun factor for these units. Mm-hmm. Whereas somebody like Baran, he's really effective. I don't think Baran is fun at all. Like he's like he's like the warlord that just comes lumbering into battle, murders things, and then goes to the next group of things he needs to murder. And he's effective and he's menacing, but like I don't think he's
unga bunga.
Yeah, but he's not that fun. All right, yeah. But anyway, do we want to go through? I know you guys have hit chat a little bit, but do we want to do a quick run through, see if there's any questions from people? I'm sure a lot of the stuff was tied to things we were talking about before, but
on my chat, not really any questions, just comments here and there about what we were talking about. So nothing on my end.
Awesome. If anybody has anything, feel free to put it in. Looks like a lot of people just talking about the things we were talking of, like.
I did want to ask, what were you guys' favorite collab? Whether it's from the units, the events, the theme.
Oh man, that's a lot of factors.
Mine was Secret of Mana, mainly because it was the first collab, and then I don't know, just the collab itself, and then fighting the Mana Dragon, which he wasn't even a dragon. The Mana Dragon was, I don't know, it felt at the time it felt like a really fun event. Like, it was really cool. I liked it a lot.
I think if I'm looking at two different things completely, for units and arcs, it was ReZero. Both the units and the arcs we got were super impactful in changing up meta, and they're both relevant still today, still totally usable, as far as units and the skills on them. But as far as the content that we got, I think DMC for that, like, whatever it was called, like the Dark Palace, like that, the long gauntlet style fight that we got, that we needed to kind of farm. We don't have many things like that, and it was super cool to go in and, like, I would go in and just be making a unit to friend people with, to intentionally try to carry people having trouble with it, and it was just fun trying to, like, solve that puzzle of how can you make a unit that can basically solo this garbage. And I don't know, I just like when they put in interesting challenges, and so many of these collabs is just run some stages and grind materials. And, like, the rewards are good, but, like, I want some interesting gameplay as well, and we don't usually get that. That was one of the few times we've seen it with a collab.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to agree with that. My favorite was 100% DMC. I remember when it was first announced, I lost it. I mean, it was my first PS2 game, and the fact that we were getting it in an RPG was just phenomenal. And then we got the sprite work, and then we saw that Urizen was actually going to be a boss fight, and then we found out in the towers. I mean, there was just so much content to keep us busy for the entire collab, and that's what a collab should be like. It should be just content from beginning to end, and I feel like that's exactly what we got. They implemented all, like, the weapons from the games, Ebony and Ivory, Red Queen. Again, there were free weapons, and they were actually really, really good free weapons, especially for a starting player.
Yeah.
Little did we know the character that no one really wanted was V, but he was gonna be one of the top tier.
Yeah, did people really not want V? Like, all I wanted was phone booth and V. That's all I wanted.
it's not that I didn't want him. It's just that he didn't seem very appealing at the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was actually a person, and he's probably in here watching now, but I will tell a story. He actually quit playing the game because he pulled V. Like, that's how mad he was.
What?
Wow. When I looked at all the things, I was like, first of all, we have this premise in general in the game where, like, soldiers, meat sticks, physical DPS is, like, the most common thing. So seeing Dante and Nero as that, I'm just like, fuck those guys. I don't care how good they are. Like, that just looks garbage. I want weird shit. And then V comes in and I'm like, Logia's the only one that does his thing. This guy is a sniper that does Logia things. I want it. Like, that's a different, and then also and strength scaling was not a common thing. It's still not that common now. Like, it's mostly V and Roy, maybe Lukiel. Like, you know, it means that different types of weapons and abilities can be interesting for units, and he was one of the few for it, so I was all about it. And now that we're talking about it, I think screw ReZero, DMC was definitely the best because like also like Nero and V like changed things up so much, and those arcs were really killer. Like getting phone booth, I don't have it, but phone booth is a game changer. Like it is, it does so much in Purple Orb too. Like just the combination of those things is crazy.
Phone booth, I mean, it's these arcs, and then the stats on the arcs. I think I have them all level. You got 437 on strength on the mobile office, and then you got a 446 on INT. I mean, just stacked stats, and then even the arc attributes are so good. And like you're saying, there was auto haste for. I mean, they were so stacked on skills. Curse resist, creature shield, auto haste, phone booth, purple orb, all in one arc. And then you had your Risen that had. This is power, dark high drive, dark attack raise, demon throne, and crit 2.
Yeah, so much good stuff.
Just so much good. And the stats on the Risen were insane. Almost a 4K cap on HP, strength almost at 500, defense almost at 400. I mean, there was a lot of thought that went into these, especially that dark attack damage on Architectures plus 20% is really, really good. Yeah, I mean, guys, that arc was, I mean, that collab was just phenomenal. Like from
out of the whole collab, I just wanted phone booth, and I managed to get it. I was like, all right, I'm good. As soon as I saw a phone booth, I was like, I want it. That's it. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing that I wanted, and I ended up getting all 3 units and no arcs. I was like, I want the arcs, mainly phone booth, and then I barely got V, which was the main thing that I wanted. I pulled like 4 or 5 Dantes. I was like, stop it. Wow. I don't want it, man. But it's all right. I've warmed up to him, but he's not that impressive, especially in PvE. He doesn't feel good enough. Like you were saying before, he really needs some flinch resist, like hard.
He will be good in the future, and I made a video.
I hope so. Yeah.
He has he's a little future proof. Hopefully, there's definitely some room for severe improvement, especially if they awaken 5. If they bring back DMC, we're definitely going to see awaken 5 on him, and I can't wait to see what caps at then. If he's already doing what he's doing now, and then guys, can you even imagine what else could they throw on V? Like, I mean, what else could they throw on V?
All the other researches and some more cap raises, like
even more damage cap.
Yeah,
percentages on researches, maybe an increased percentage stuff. I mean, it could be really good.
Yeah, lots of bright stuff coming for future buffs for sure.
Nero introduced a lot of the sky high skills that came out. I think he had, what is it called?
Air hike.
Air hike. He also had this. It was like an increase.
Well, he had sky high too, which doesn't exist otherwise. Yeah.
What else did he have? Where is it? It's been a while since I've used him. Oh, then he had like his Buster Arm changes randomly. I don't know.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah, it was some cool stuff. I do have a question that could take up a little time here, but I think that it's probably worth doing. We may as well knock it out. What do you guys think are some of the biggest glaring issues, and anything that sticks out in particular? Asks Corn Muffin.
Glaring issues?
Yeah, glaring issues. I mean, I know some that come to mind. Hear from you guys first.
I'm gonna let y'all get started. I unfortunately have to use the restroom.
Oh yeah, sure, man.
As unprofessional as that is.
No, that's totally fine.
I'll be right back.
No, bro. Catheter on my leg. I'm good to go.
I just let it run down the leg. We'll mop it up later. It's cool. Yeah, we're all about it. I mean, I would say if I could change one single thing only, it would be the gacha system. because I think it's the single biggest reason why we lose players and why the game is not bigger than it is. Because if we go look at a bunch of the reviews or like people talking about it in other gacha communities, nobody ever has much of anything bad to say about the game itself, the customization, the gameplay. It's almost always that the gacha system sucks, and they're not completely wrong. Like, 8% on SSRs in general is better than most other games, but the pool is so diluted and focused banners suck so much. Like, I think that the breakdown comes down to, if you get an SSR, it's like maybe a 25% chance to be something on banner, which doesn't even feel like it's actually 25%. It feels worse than that, but statistically I think it's 25% chance. And beyond that, pity is just so bad. I think that the big thing would be like, why have they not just made medals be generic? Like, they have a currency system for pity right now. Just let it be generic instead, so that it can have a similar feel to, like, I compare to, like, Genshin. I don't think they have a great gacha system, but what they do have, at least, is when RNG shafts you over and over, every time you pull and you fail, you know you are at least one pull closer to guaranteeing something good eventually. Whereas you don't have it here. Like, you could pull 10 times in a row and get nothing, and then continue to pull, like, a month later and still get nothing and never have any sort of, like, retribution. Like, there's no sunset. There's no light in the distance that's like, eventually I'll get something cool. Whereas if medals were shared, at least you could say, I've been shafted over and over, but eventually a collab's going to come out that I really am excited for, and when I do, all this stuff is actually going to come back, and I'll at least be able to get that one thing that excites me and gets me to be motivated to build and play. And we just don't have that right now.
The pity system?
Yeah, I'm talking about the pity system just being really bad. Like, I wish medals were generic so that, like, if people get shafted really hard, at least you always know that you're slowly working your way to getting something good eventually. And we don't have that right now.
That pity system's horrendous. Like, my alt, like, I keep bringing up my alt, but I feel like it's a very good example. But my alt, for some reason, I'm very stingy on my alt when it comes to gems. And in the time that I've played my alt, I think I've made around 140,000 gems. So what I'm trying to get at is, so pity is 90k. And on my ult, I can only reach pity once, which I guess maybe it's good that you can't reach pity a lot, but I don't know. I feel like over how long the game has been out, only being able to hit pity once and having to save your gems at that. Like, I only summoned for Nug. I did 10 multis, and then before then I only used tickets. All were tickets. I never used gems. So what I'm saying is, if I have to save all of the gems from start to where I am now, and only getting enough to hit pity once out of how long the game's been out, I don't know. They got to do something about that pity. Yeah,
it doesn't have a good, like, happiness curve. Like, the thing with gacha that, you know, gets people to make money is, you know, doing the gacha system, pulling things and feeling good about it. But Last Cloudia has this opposite effect where they incentivize you to save, and if you don't save, you get punished really hard. But if you do save, you don't get those dopamine hits of rolling, because if you are rolling and it doesn't work, then it's wasted, and then you feel extra bad. So, like, it's not this good balance. And, like, I understand if people are wanting to get those dopamine hits, they just have to pay, but most people aren't going to pay. Like, whales are still going to fund the game as much as they can, but I think that if you can make this nice compromise where it feels good to be summoning and failing sometimes, like, more people will be willing to spend here and there, and especially whenever they finally get us the subscription system, like, it's going to feel better to spend only $5 or $10 a month. You know, if the core experience throughout feels pretty good instead of just feels like garbage, and then eventually you hit something, you're like, yes, this is amazing. But yeah, it's just not good enough to keep people, is the problem. Other things I would change, well, I talked about some of the multiplayer enhancements. I think that more things can go into alchemy as well. I already talked about some of the quality of life things with some of the endgame grindy stuff, but also, like, accessories. I think somebody actually mentioned it in chat before, like, why do we still not have accessories? Maybe they're just worried about them being broken, but, like, if they're only going to give us plus 40s on stuff, that's not going to break anything. I would also like if they revisited some of the old gear in general and like kind of powered some of them up. Like I think that everything when you get to plus 40 should have some sort of an increase to their effectiveness, just like the Godforge stuff. Like even if it's just minor stuff, give us an incentive to go and use like interface with that stuff. That would be great. I'll have to also think on it more. No, I was just gonna say that I need to think on it more. So go ahead if you got anything.
I was just while I was gone. Was that the only topic that was brought up?
Yeah, pity and the and gacha in general. Just the fact that it's so diluted and the rates are so low that getting anything on banner is basically once you can hit an SSR, it's like a 25% chance statistically, and it feels like it's not even that. So it just feels really bad to get what you want, and the general pool is so diluted too. Between making focus banners probably be more like a 50-50, or even like a 40% chance or something would be good. And then also having that background pool, I think should cycle between banners too. So people can be like, oh, this is something that I want, but also this is where the 20 general pool arcs on feature happen to include Caladina or something. Instead of like, oh, you have 60, 100, however many we have going on in all these different units. Like, we should have some isolated banners where we can have luck be, down a little bit. So, like, people can sort of more intelligently focus resources in that regard, too.
Speaking of pity, do you, now that you, having played, this goes for both of you and I guess for chat, too, having played LC and having more knowledge, and then from where you started to where you are now, do you think one can be completely free to play and do what we can do, or to a certain extent as an end game? Having spent money, can somebody be free to play and get far?
100%. Before I think DMC, I think I spent like $20 in this game. And everything else was all free to play, and it's just because of, like, even though gem economy kind of sucks, like, you still get enough from login bonuses and maybe eventually leveling up units that usually every time a banner comes out, if I wanted to, I could probably do 3 or 4 10 pulls. Like, it's not smart to just throw pulls at everything, but I do because I have no willpower. But you get enough, and like the core tools that you need, if you can at least get a couple of units that are decent, it's all about the arcs. And like, even though it's diluted, you eventually get things that are helpful and that you need, whether it's Trish or some skill charges or whatever it might be. Maybe it's harder now. Obviously, I'm not playing in the current climate where things are so ridiculously diluted. Maybe it's hard to get some of those core tools, but like, Rs and SRs in general get you through most content. You're going to need some of the other tools and some of the endgame stuff, but if you can get a good carry and a good support for endgame, like, you can do most things, I think. And with enough time and dedication, you can get over a lot of the RNG hurdles that there are with what the game offers you. Up to that point, I wouldn't attribute like any of my progress to the little bit that I spent. And even now, like, money that I've spent has probably got me 1 UR, maybe 3 extra units, most of which aren't good. Like during the Annie banner, I dropped $100. Actually a little more than that. I got a dupe of a UR that I already had, and like, and some units I didn't need, like Eliza and Lag. Like, I built up Lag because he's cool and he's fun, but I didn't need him. I didn't need much of anything. I didn't get anything new that I really needed, I don't think. Just new tools to play with, because why not? I think I got Merity and one of my 4 copies of Dante off of the first level of a step up, but like, I think I've gotten a dupe Merity since then, just naturally. So like, me paying, I think I've spent maybe $250 total since I've started playing the game. Like, it's not crazy.
What I spent.
Yeah, well, I know some people spend more than that in one banner. So like,
yeah,
I feel like I have a pretty competent account. At this point, I'm missing, as far as general pool arcs, the last like 3 or 4 that came out, I haven't been able to get. Other than that, I have everything else in the general pool. Like, it just happens over time, because you just get so much over time, especially going through campaign. It doesn't mean you're going to get what you want.
Right.
It's not a game for, like, if you want to be free to play and also get what you want, you're not going to have a great time probably,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're re-rolling to get it first, and then you're okay with just solving the game's combat puzzles with what you're given. Like, be happy with what you're given and see it as a challenge with what your account gives you. Not that you need to have all the hottest stuff, because you're not guaranteed to get all the hottest stuff unless you're paying money, and even then it feels real shitty. I feel like they don't want people to pay in this game, because like I feel like your bang for buck compared to other gachas is just so bad. It's just,
Right.
I don't know.
What about you, DK? What are your thoughts on the free to play?
Yeah, so free to play. I was just like Zero, maybe a little bit higher than what, maybe $50 for my first year. And I remember telling myself, I'm not paying to play a free game, like, right? And then I slowly got crept on whenever that $99 UR guaranteed UR came out. And doing that was the biggest, the most money I've ever spent in any kind of gacha game, as I did play Legends and several others, but it was really hard to press that accept button on my phone for the to go in there. But as far as like free to play, like you were saying, there is a point where you will get kind of like it's either you want to keep what you have or you want to like keep like, getting more and more and more, and that's where it came down to me. It was more like DMC came out, then Dr. Stone came out, and then like I was just kind of like hooked. They were just bringing so much to the table, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that I only, if I were to restart fresh off the port, I either wait for the anniversary, I wait for a collab, and then start rerolling there, and then only hunt collabs, because during the year I've noticed that Adis has given us a lot of really good deals on pulls, discounted pulls. Their anniversary had some really good stuff, free unit tickets, stuff like, and you know, eventually you will get really great stuff, but I mean, for those people that want it now, the newest and baddest, you know, stuff, that's where it's going to get you. So there is an option to totally be a free to play, you know, person, just depending on how much willpower you have, which I currently don't have any. I mean, luckily I have a little bit. I didn't chase Alice, although I do want her, because she's not the most valuable unit to me, but there's just something about her, the whole dual element thing. Yeah.
It's the outfit. Don't lie to yourself.
Booba's over meta.
Right. No. It was actually the fact that she could literally be at level 50 with 30 SC and hit cap like so hard. That was just so appealing to me. I also really like the dual element. I feel like dual elements are going to be kind of like the future of LC for a little bit, and stuff like that. But I did not chase her, so I'm proud of myself for that. But I mean, the other day I just stared at the gacha screen and was like, do it, don't do it, do it, right? And then I had some friends with me, so they were like, don't do it, DK, please. And I'm like, okay, and I just closed the whole game out, kind of took a breath. It was, you know, it just kind of happens once you can start spending money. You're like, it's just $7, it's just $10, but there is a 100% way to become a free to play player, and that's just, I would feel like kind of going after the collabs. I think that's where you'll get your most bang for your buck. But also, like he was saying, like Zero was saying, I'm sure everybody will agree with this, that the pity system has to change, guys. It 100% has to change. We need to be rewarded for failure, and that is 100% necessary for this game. Especially, we're getting the new PC client, so that means that they want to push this game even further, because not a lot of gacha games go through PC client. So like this is one of the few that I've seen in, you know, going to be in Steam and stuff like that. So I think that's where they're going, right? The Steam client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it should be out soon.
Just, and the fact that we're getting that just proves that the longevity. They want this game to survive. We want this game to survive. So there's little things that they can do, and the pity system would definitely help us out. The pulls, man, the pulls. They don't all need to be in there. It's just like common sense. And a lot of other gachas are succeeding because of that. They're not throwing every single unit into these pools where it's like a tiny percentage of a chance that you'll get this. But my luck has been pretty good so far. Just like your one ticket pull Log, I pulled all the FMA on one ticket. I pulled Log on one ticket, and I pulled Baran and Degrog on one ticket. So I can't complain right now. But I feel anybody's pain that's had to pay to get a unit. I have done one pity in my entire life. There is a little regret, but
see, and that's the thing. Like, if you pay and then you get what you want, you don't feel good after.
Hell no.
Like, that's a bad gacha system if you give them money and then feel bad for it. Like, they're doing something wrong when the paying players feel bad.
Bro, the first thing I ever pitied was Light of Science when Dr. Stone first came out.
No.
And so I was
pretty worth,
I
though.
Pitied it. I pitied it. I was like, oh yeah, I got it.
It's
I was
real
like,
good. That's
I
worthwhile.
got it. But then I was like, fuck. I had to pity, man. This doesn't feel good.
At what cost?
Yeah, I was like, is this what people
hundreds
feel
of
when
dollars
they pity?
for a collection of pixels on my phone?
And speaking of being able to pity, the fact that some unit you can't even pity Atlas.
No,
you
Atlas
can only
can't.
you can only quote unquote pity.
Yeah,
like,
they
with the
need to stop that shit. And also, like, the
Yeah.
the collab units, like, if people were saving for that collab they were excited about, and then they wanted Ed or they wanted Roy, you couldn't pity them free to play. That's frustrating. That is a huge misstep to me, because that's the promise. Like, the promise in general is we have this bad system, but if you have the willpower to save 90k, you can get the thing you want when it comes out. But you couldn't. You still had to pay hundreds of dollars to
there's
guarantee your
paid
thing.
weapons.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's paid weapons.
I don't think, personally, I don't have a problem with the paid weapons. Like, just simply because 99% of them are super niche or bad. Like,
Yeah.
like most of them aren't bad. I think Alice's are pretty good. Lagrabos is pretty good. Roy's was fine. Like, his glove I would probably use, I guess.
Yeah,
But
I'd say Balin's is still probably
Balin's
like
was one of the better ones. Yes, I agree.
Right, like hey, you're paying for this, you're gonna get what you pay for. Like that was a really good paid weapon at the time. For
it was very good for sure.
came.
To get back onto, I think this will be our final note, is just talking about the free to play stuff. Two notes that I have. One of them, I think, if you are trying to be the smartest free to play player you can, the devs have already told us these special banners that they give us with really discounted pity is the thing to wait for. That, in addition to collabs, because collabs are going to have some limited time broken stuff probably. But if you are very smart, you want to make sure that you are saving as much as you can, so that when we get things where you can pay 15k in order to pity any general pool arc, you want that. That is how you get Trishula. That's how you get Sandworm, or whatever you happen to need on your account. When you can spend 30k and guarantee Theria or Zekis or whoever you want, like, that is smart usage of those gems when they are really limited, and that is probably better than saving for a collab. Like, guaranteeing a Theria for only 30k is...
Yo, that was insane.
It goes way further than 30k thrown at a collab. Like,
Right.
hands down. So the devs have already said, like, if you're smart, you save for those, like, flat out, which I don't like, because it means that they're kind of saying, we're kind of going to keep things how they are, and we'll just give you a good banner sometimes. But at least we're getting those. We didn't used to have that. That is new this year. We have had the Arc one run once. We've had the Unit one run once. So, like, I'm guessing maybe, like, every few months we're going to get these things, and people need to watch for those, because it's important.
Actually, yeah, you bring up a point. I don't think they've done the Arc 15k one for a while, since they first did it, right?
I don't think they have. No, it was the one time. And that one, you were able to do it 3 times, too. So if you had 45k, you get any 3 arcs you want. It was huge. It was really huge. It was a big deal. And then the other thing that I just wanted to say is an emphasis on, like, how free-to-play can make it work. I said before, until this year, I didn't really spend much at all. Like, I wouldn't attribute any of my progress to the small amount that I paid. Because you just don't get much, especially for like 25 bucks. You know, I spent a little to be like, I'll support the game. I like it a lot. So I did, and it didn't give me much. I think I put a ×2 on my Sandworms because I wanted to give dual wield out without spending a fortune. But anyway, the biggest thing in a gacha, I think, if free to play can survive, is the climate of PvP. And I know that's not a thing for you, Jawline, but for most people coming in, people get, you know, excited about taking their shiny things in and fighting against other players. And I think Last Cloudia is probably one of the most free-to-play friendly games there is, because you do not get that huge of a benefit for dupes. Like, if you pull a ton of them and you get 20 extra SC, sure, that could be a big deal. But that's rare because it feels so bad for people to pay for that much. Like, people spending that money is not often. And paid gear usually is not going to change the climate in Arena almost ever. Like, it's very, very rare. So free to play, the tools you get, it comes down to understanding game mechanics and what the meta is. Early on, when I first went into Arena, when it was first brought in, it was all Randy's and like some other things. And when I went in, I got destroyed. I was like, oh, this is a pay to win game. Okay, I won't be back in Arena. I'm just not going to do this anymore. And I bet it feels like that for a lot of people. And then I ended up getting some skills unlocked, and I was like, you know what, I'll go back in and try something else. And I ended up finding these little things like, oh, if I put Awaken on all my units, my win rates jump drastically. Oh, if I have 1 or 2 skill charges, suddenly I can climb 3 more ranks just by doing that. Like, it wasn't that they were paying to win, it's that I didn't know a goddamn thing. So, like, it really comes down to understanding how the game works and how other people are building their units so that you know how to do things. And if your knowledge and way to build things is good enough, you can do stuff. Now, there are some exceptions where, like, the ReZero collab had something, one of their arcs had From Zero as a skill.
Yes.
If you don't have it, especially in today's climate, it's definitely much harder to survive. Like, you have to work way harder to survive that first 10 seconds. So there are little exceptions like that, but you can totally work without using them. It's just a little bit harder, and you have to be a little bit trickier with the way that you do things. And the fact that you are not playing live against somebody else, it is, you can control all of the time stop. They have AI they need to manipulate, which means for the PvP and how it works, you have an advantage over other people. So if you can play well enough, you can get over almost any hurdle. Like, when I was free to play, I was up near the top when I was spending the time and energy to be able to do it. I just needed to learn how the hell to play. So, yeah, I think that if you can free to play Arena, the game is free to play friendly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to add. Yeah, I think, you know, having made my alt, and then with the knowledge that I have now, I definitely think you can. I mean, my alt's free to play. I haven't spent any money on it, and it's pretty stacked. Like, of course, I got lucky with, you know, the units and whatnot, but if you're trying to be completely free to play, you gotta set some like big limitations on yourself. Like, you gotta have this, you know, reality where, okay, I'm free to play. I gotta work with what I got. I gotta work smart with what I got. I gotta make the best use of it. Like, for instance, I used Gobble to clear that one stage. Like, nobody would use them, but me knowing what I know, like, I knew how to use them. So being free to play, it's definitely doable. The game is a marathon, so there's no incentive to like rush. Like, you know, like it's gonna take you a while to get to where, you know, everyone is at, but there's no real reason to rush to where everyone's at. Like, you'll be fine taking your time. So don't think that, oh, I'm free to play, I have to, you know, rush to where everybody's at. No, you'll be fine. Just, you know, take your time. Definitely do some research on skills, units before you even start. Because that's in, you know, focus your resources on one unit, then move on to the next, and those units that you focus on, they should benefit your team rather than just, oh, I like them. Yeah, if you like them, cool, but you gotta make sure you invest in properly.
Yeah, I agree. And I will also say, just to anybody newer that's listening, I think that the mentality of using what you got is actually a more ideal way to play Last Cloudia. Like, when you don't have everything available to you and you cannot just do the meta thing and stomp content, you need to think differently. And you end up discovering things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of before, like reducing elemental resistances. Like, if you don't have Trishula, you need ways to solve some of these combat puzzles, whether it's using a different type of unit or some weird mechanic you never thought of, like Gobble. Like, if you don't need the things, why use Gobble? Like, if you just spend all the money, you have all the broken things, you will never need to use Gobble. But in your case, you knew how to use it, and you're like, this is something I at least do have, and it can solve this problem for me, so it was worthwhile to be able to do it. So, yeah, I just think it's more satisfying when things are genuinely challenging. But
yeah,
not
honestly,
every...
I honestly had a lot of fun doing the alt, too. Like, I think I had more fun doing the alt than I've had playing LC, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just because of the knowledge that I went into it. And I was like, oh, cool, look, I can do this. I have this unit, now I gotta do this. So I thought it was fun doing
Yeah,
the alt.
it seems
For
like
sure.
it sounds like it was much more satisfying in general, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
So cool. All right.
I agree.
Any other closing stuff? I think we've run for over 2 hours now. So not that we were looking at a particular cap, but
We
um,
Anything you want to add, DK?
longer as usual. I feel like the first one is going to be the longest just because there's a lot of introduction. So I
Mm-hmm.
really did enjoy it. I did see that we were almost at 2.5 hours. I was like, oh, I didn't feel like it. So no, as far as adding anything extra, no. You guys pretty much covered it. Free to play is possible, but smart. The alt account though, I actually did create an alt account. It is
Ooh.
more rewarding when you know what you're doing.
See.
Different game because you know what to spend, what not to spend, what you need, what you don't need. And honestly, it was a lot easier, especially with the new events having better weapons than what we got previously in year one. It was able to carry through a lot of the story, so it was more enjoyable versus like I said back then was it was hard to get these characters up, getting mats for them to enhance. Now we can actually slowly do it from the start. So if you guys are veteran players out there, definitely try an alt if you don't already have one because it's a different mindset when you're going into an alt. You're definitely not set to change. I've actually seen Jaws account and that 100,000 was really nice. I was like, oh my god, it is possible to save. So, but yeah, other than that, no, I got nothing to add on this one. Uh, so yeah.
yeah. I think it's kind of a testament to their philosophy of the game being hard, like RPGs of old. How many of you guys will play halfway through a brand new RPG that you get and then be like, all right, now I need to restart since I screwed everything up now that I know what I'm doing? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't allocate skills appropriately. I didn't,
Right.
and it
Yeah,
seems like
no.
it's kind of a similar experience where,
Final Fantasy 7, man. There's so much stuff I missed when my first run through, and I was like, oh man, that was like 50 hours down the drain. I'm about to go another 50, just to make sure I grab everything. So no. If you know anything about RPGs, that's just the lifestyle that it comes with. That comes
yeah.
with it. You just replay, especially like I said, this is my first gacha, so uh, so Dan was like, I do this all the time. um, yeah, so no. Especially, the re-rolling is a lot more fun, especially when these collabs roll around. So it's even hard not to even make a a third alternate account. Don't ask how many I have because the answer is
Jesus.
pretty crazy. I
Okay,
like the test. I like the test.
can you answer this? How much have you spent?
I can actually. Let me see. So I put about 140 into DMC. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm sorry. Between New Year's and DMC, I put about 140, because I did the 100. It was the first introduction to the guaranteed UR, which was so awesome for me because I pulled Great War and Lily's Arc, UR, and I pulled a dupe Lily, which everybody has their own opinions on Advocate Lily. But then when DMC rolled around, I believe it was like a month after. Oh my gosh, it was so quick how things happened. I got really lucky on DMC. I only spent like $45. I pulled all three units and both arcs with the 45. I got them mostly on the step up, but then when Dr. Stone, that's where it really got bad for me.
Ooh.
I really wanted Senku. I almost pitied. I didn't though. Willpower.
Oh.
I almost did it. I got to around 200 coins, and I was like, you know what? Let's not do this. DK, let's calm down. But then that freaking anniversary rolled around a month and a half later, and I was like, I don't have any crystals.
It's
Like,
called Gotcha for a reason.
we just had the New Year's, we had DMC, we had Doctor Stone, and then we had anniversary. We had four things happening so quickly, and all I got was Kuhaku, the first time Doctor Stone came around. So and then you guys know Mobile Gamers Unite. He would always talk about how great Sukasa was. So I like wanted Sukasa because he amped them up for me, and then I saw Chrome and I was like, oh, this is gonna be bad for me. So luckily I was very smart on it. I think I only spent about another 80 to 100 on that. But then anniversary rolled around. I pitied Rudo.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's rough.
Oh.
yeah, I
Damn.
pitied Rudo. Let's not talk about that.
That
Ooh.
So my mindset is I'm a content creator. I gotta do this, man.
I'm
So
investing. I'm
I'm
investing.
Yeah.
investing, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing this for the community so they have something to laugh at. No, no. But all seriousness, I do like the game that much. I do appreciate the devs. I know I've done game design before, so I know the effort and the time that goes into this stuff. I know crunch time, getting stuff out at certain, it can be very, very hectic. So if I'm gonna support anybody, it's definitely gonna be, a fun game like this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which would this actually be actually one of my first games that I actually really funded, and I'm doing YouTube for it too as well. So I mean that says a lot. That does say a lot
Right.
how much I really enjoy this game. But yeah. My first pity was my first and last pity was Rudo. I'll never do it again. So yeah.
I will say another thing that helps free to play players a lot is assuming they continue it. The last few collabs that we've had, they've had pity units. So Alphonse was not as great of it as an example because it can't be your carry. But for Dr. Stone and DMC, we got free unit tickets, which was pretty freaking huge. Like for me, I went in and I was here for the first Stone event, and I got Kahaku and Light of Science. Pretty big win. Pretty great. This one, the main thing I was interested in was Gen, but if I got anything else, I'd be like, all right, cool, this is solid. All of my pulls were 100% dead, but my free ticket was Gen. So I was like,
Wow.
so
man.
that's one of those things that I think helps a gacha system. Like,
Right.
everything feels bad, but I did get something new. My pulls were pointless, but at the end of the event, I got something new. So it doesn't feel as bad as wasting all my pulls, you know?
Right.
So just getting something is good. Like, if I had gotten Senku, I'd have been pretty happy with that too. He can do some interesting things, you know? So I hope they continue it. The free unit thing with Alphonse was fine, but I think it would have been better if it was a ticket. Like, I'd have rather had them all on a same banner, and even though Alphonse is the weak pick and people will be mad about pulling him, having a free unit ticket and then a chance at any of the three, I think would have been better, in my preference. I think, I mean, I don't know what analytics they were looking for to see how well it was received. The free unit of someone that's, like, not as meta maybe be a thing that continues, but I hope they go back to the unit tickets, because definitely felt good, especially for newer
Like,
players.
As for me, I just want to say for the amount that I've spent, I've pitied three things. I've pitied Light of Science, I've pitied Rem, and I've pitied Milim. So I want to say,
Oh, that feels bad.
yeah, tell me about it. I mean, I'm not a whale compared to like other community members.
Yeah, we won't
But
talk
I will
about who,
say-
but some
Yeah,
out there.
I will say that I'm at least 2K, maybe like 2.5.
Okay.
Creeping on 3, I think. But ever since I pitied Rim, I stopped spending like big bucks. Now it's just like the first lap, the step ups.
Yeah.
So it's just like I guess it's slowly adding up. But I'm gonna say it's at least 2K.
Nice. Yeah. Fun stuff.
I'm not adding,
Do
man.
I regret it? Yeah. I mean, no, I don't regret spending. I regret not spending it smartly.
Yeah.
Like on a unit that was worth all that.
Yeah. I saw somebody in chat said AOG Lily could totally have her own video discussion, but nobody wants to. I could probably do that someday.
You got it, not me, boss.
We can do that. Yeah, we can talk
Hey,
about her a
mine's
little
maxed
bit.
out. Mine's maxed out. It's just she's just a really weird unit, and that will be a definite. We'll do maybe a unit podcast.
Right, yeah,
Top,
we can do that.
we,
That'd be
we'll,
pretty cool.
basically we'll pull up tier lists and kind of go over the units. I think that'd be a fun one.
Yeah. Or we could just have a small segment of the podcast that's like off meta spotlight or something, and just pick a unit to showcase in that podcast. So we try to time gate it to like 20, like maybe 20 minutes or something, and be like, hey, this is what we're gonna feature. And one week we could do Lily, another week we could do whoever.
We could do like a roulette, put all the units, spin it, and then just see what happens.
Maybe.
See what it lands on.
Yeah, we could do some fun stuff. So that could be good. All right. Well, obviously this first one bled over quite a bit. I know you're optimistic, DK, that first one's always long. I think I talk too much, and we're a talkative bunch of people. Maybe this is going to be the trend, but we'll see if we can trim it down a little bit. But I've had a lot of fun. I think we've gone over a lot of great stuff here. So looking forward to next week. Everybody in the chat, or even watching this afterwards, we're planning on doing this hopefully every Saturday, same time, 8 p.m. Central. So feel free to stop in, say hi, and thanks to Buddha, Crypt, and Tweaks for shouting us out on their podcast as well. That was awesome and super cool to hear. So make sure if for some reason you're not watching it, go watch the LC Pro podcast. They record it every Thursday. Usually gets uploaded on Saturdays. They cover some awesome stuff as well. And, so, till next time, go forth and murder things.
See you guys.
Later, guys.
Adios. Oh, wait, real quick. Why don't you guys plug your socials? Like, that's a thing people do. Where do people find you guys on Twitch and YouTube?
Oh, we can plug it into, I don't know, where can we plug it into the discussion?
No, I'm just saying plug yourself. Just say, hey, I'm ThatNerd DK on YouTube.
Oh, yeah,
I'm Jawline Coon or whatever on Twitch.
Chat, I was like, plug it into the chat. Yeah. So, I am ThatNerd DK, and you guys check me out on YouTube. So yeah, definitely check it out. I do videos. I'm trying to do videos at least 2 to 3 a week. I'm slowly getting back into it. But I have a couple ideas this week, so definitely look out for those.
Awesome.
And you can find me at Jawline Coon Jawline_Coon on Twitch, and then my YouTube is just Jawline Coon together. Stream on Twitch like once in a blue moon, but with the podcast it'll now be every Saturday. So I'll be on Twitch, and if you guys drop by, I'll see y'all there.
Beautiful. All right. Well, now that we've managed to pad it even more than we needed to, have a good one, everybody. It's been fun,
guys.